We're live. It's alive.
Hello, everybody.
It's look at that
hi.
crowd.
Hi, folks.
Look at that crowd in the chat room. Wow.
Oh, yeah, huge.
Woo! Wow.
Wow.
Woo-hoo.
I didn't know that many could fit in there.
Good point.
Wait. It's just us.
Just us.
Just Liz. She's
just
the only
us.
one in there.
Just us.
Just usins.
Just usins. Okay, well, we'll continue. We can just carry on with our normal little chit chat that we were having.
Mm-hmm.
I might point out that PT UK is on right now. That's probably the point.
Oh, yes.
That's
They still
probably the problem.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, there we are.
There's magic.
Derek.
Look.
Steve Ivy.
Just
hello.
the three of us. Hey,
Hi,
Stephen.
Derek. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, my God. I've just arrived.
Well, they must have heard us bad-mouthing them or sensed that we were. And they thought, I better
The
get over
heck
there
is
before
everyone?
they say anything bad, anything more bad. Hey, Derek
Sam
Lewis.
Dawson.
Well, Stephen Ivy, Michael
they just finished.
Kuiper,
Sam says they
Dawson,
just finished on PTUK.
That's why they're coming over here. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Another runway excursion in
Pip, hello,
Honolulu
Pip.
in Hawaii.
Oh, Pipperini. I listened to Pipperini's last show. I think it's his annual show. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes for the quality, not the quantity. Well,
Yeah, it was a little longer than his normal, one, but
that's what she
That's
said.
what she said.
he had a lot to tell us, had the whole year's amount of news, which he got through in about 45 minutes.
Very impressive.
Very
you hear
impressive.
Poppy? You hear Poppy chewing on her. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Can you hear Poppy chewing on her chewy thing? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Poppy. Hey.
That's right. We're not recording right now.
All right. Okay. Go ahead then. Carry
Get her
on.
chewing out of the way.
Carry on, Poppy. No, I don't have anything else more interesting. Sorry.
FedEx lands on the runway in Tulsa.
Yeah, I think Larry Gregory had something to do with that incident, quite frankly.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. Hi, Micah.
By the way, just whoever's hanging out there in the chat room, if you can kind of keep an ear open for levels and stuff and let us know if one of us needs to come up or down.
And Steph is, as usual, working very hard, but she'll be with us at some point.
Don't know about that.
Rick's off doing whatever Rick's doing, and Nick Camacho's busy with his work commitments. So
Work.
exactly.
Yeah. I think I have one of those somewhere. I don't know where that is.
Work, schedule, work, report time, work, scope clause, work. Talk about work.
That's a good one.
I ought to come up and talk into the mic properly, just in case
Thank you,
someone is
Derek.
actually trying to check
Derek
the
and
levels.
Mike say that the sound sounds good. You from Flight
Okay.
Deck.
What about how does Nick's camera look?
My camera's broken.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The camera's broken.
And you really like Men at Sea, don't you?
No, I prefer Siemens.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a good name for them.
Let's see. Boeing.
Did someone say work? Do you have to go to work, Stephen?
On runway in Tulsa.
I hope not.
Rum, bum, and backy. That's what seamen get up to.
558.
Oh boy.
What?
We won't go there. I just remember you talking about your neighbor Nick Rogering. Remember that? You told me
yeah,
that
and his
story?
cat.
Yeah,
His cat called Roger.
Roger. Yeah.
I mean, it was just lovely that he kept his innocent wife in the. He'd hidden the true meaning of the cat's name.
Oh, my mother was like that. She was so totally innocent about. She would say some
lovely.
things that were so rude, and she had no clue what she was saying. She was sort of like,
Love it.
household to do. Oh, baby watch. Yeah, that must be soon, eh, Stephen?
Oh, Derek says I'm a little low.
Yeah.
You talking
Well,
about my
sit
moral
up.
character?
Sit up.
Is that better?
That's better. He's higher now.
Here, let me. Because usually I have to turn it down. I'll bump it up. Is that better?
You know what? When I saw your T-shirt, I thought for a minute of the old British TV show called Jim'll Fix It.
Jim will fix it. Yeah.
Fix it in post. What was that all about?
That was about
Hi, Neil.
a notorious paedophile.
Oh, lovely.
Oh boy.
Oh, you
He
Brits
was
and
a-
your humor.
Oh yeah, he was a disc
Oh,
jockey.
Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile, yes.
Oh yeah.
He used
heard
to
of
do a
him.
TV program called Jim Will Fix It,
Yeah.
where he got hold of kids and they arranged for their heart's desire. You know, you've got something similar in the States, I think. Something for a wish or
Children's Wish Foundation.
yeah, something like that, where kids the needy ones, the ones that really deserve it, get a special day or something.
Oh, yeah. Make
Even
a wish.
Ivy's saying baby's coming any day now. Any day
Ooh,
now.
all right.
Daddy.
Any day now.
Who's
Well-
your daddy?
Ours arrived about 6 weeks early, which saved a lot of messing about.
No waiting around.
No,
What is I had Liz better than Jeff? What does that mean?
Well, I didn't want to read that out loud there. I think
You'd rather do what? What do you?
oh, what?
What? What?
yeah. Head? Who said head? I'll have some of that.
So, guys,
All
are
right.
we going to start before Stephanie
Nah.
arrives? Yeah? Or no?
Well, I think we're going to have to, right? I mean,
I think we're going to have to.
any
too, yeah.
idea when she's going to?
No. She usually says when
Show
she's
up?
leaving the office, and
Yeah.
she hasn't even said that yet. So I
Yeah.
would presume I'm thinking around 5. She won't be home till around 5, but I
I've
don't
got
know.
a transparent beer bottle.
Must
How
have
does that
some
work?
green on it or something.
Yeah, there's the Hogsback
Oh.
Brewery.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that Hogsback where you guys went to the meetup thing?
Yep, that's where we were in the
nice.
Hogsback Hotel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Our first
Farnborough.
Farnborough meetup,
Yes.
2016.
I'm drinking Tongham tea, it says here, but it's all in green, like I say, so you can't work out what it says.
Tongham Teen. Hi, Brad.
Oh, there's Brad, the Sultan of Wings,
Bad
And
Brad.
T stands for
Or-
traditional English ale.
the Insultan
Oh.
of Wings. He's always insulting people.
Oh, yeah, that's very
Insultant-
true.
the
actually.
insultant of
That's a
wings.
good name for him.
Bad boy Brad.
Yeah.
So are you ready to roll, Jeff? You
I
know what you're
was
going to
say,
say?
well, let me check the sound on Radio Rogers intro, but never
Oh,
mind.
no.
Oh, how am I going to do that? I have to figure out how I'm going to do this. Where are the files
Roger
for that?
has not sent his intro yet today. I guess he's gotten busy with all that news happening in the Big Apple.
Yeah, he's on the naughty boy list now.
Steph's going to have to put him under some sort of disciplinary action.
Oh, yeah, no problem. She is quite strict, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The last spanking I got
Airline
was
Pilot Guy Show.
Sorry.
You loved it.
What was that? I missed it. I'm sorry.
the last
we're talking
spanking
about
that Steph gave me.
Oh,
Steph's HR disciplinary action.
yeah.
that she
You were smiling
undertakes.
too much.
Exactly.
Well, that's the trouble.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
How's
If you
that?
look like you're enjoying it, she stops.
Sounds good to me.
WAPG.
It sounds like a little bit loud.
A little loud. Yeah, a little loud, I would say.
Okay. And
Podcaster, podcaster.
That's what I should do. Just play that.
Podcaster.
There you go. It's our new theme song.
so much better than that's Jeff Smith crap. That's the guy that did the.
Yeah, I know.
I felt like there was no response.
I'm
or
glad you're
whatever,
able
so.
to make it, Neil, after a month away. We missed you.
Look at noise assist. Make sure I have that on.
You finished chewing.
4.2% is for beginners. Look, I have to get through 3 hours of this damn show.
Please don't encourage him.
Yeah.
No.
it's bad
That
enough as
last
it is.
hour, we'll be slipping and sliding all over the place.
Yeah, slip sliding away.
Away.
Okay.
Slip sliding away.
All right. I think I'm gonna try to manage this best I can.
Okay. Let me get my slide ready. Okay, I'm ready.
Oh wait, I gotta get my script ahead of me, in front of me.
I've got my script. We sit beside the famous ancient chalk ridge of West Surrey, the Hog's Back.
He's reading his beer bottle.
Oh, nobody told me to turn the recorder on.
All right, okay.
Turn your recorder on, Jeff and Nick.
Thanks, Liz.
I know I'm on
Good
top
idea,
of it.
Liz. Gurgle, gurgle. Yeah, we're going.
Okay.
We don't even need the clap.
No. Well,
We don't
who
need
does?
we definitely don't need the clap.
Certainly don't need the clap. That's for
Yeah, it's redundant.
sure. Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
try to see if I remember how to do this.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
Oh, apparently not.
What?
No, I was waiting for it to go into the next segment, but they're all individual files. So,
Oh, okay.
okay, let me do that again. Here we go. Go ahead and throw it up there.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 558.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show was recorded on the 24th of February, 2023.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Get your ride and he's flying by with the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a runway excursion in Hawaii. A FedEx jet lands on the wrong runway in Tulsa, Oklahoma. More news. And your great feedback. So, get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 558 is ready for pushback. All right, welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I am Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, GA. And joining me from across the pond,
In Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot.
500.
Did that thing start playing again? Or is that the normal thing it does?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm only here every week.
Yeah, I know. It's like you'd think we know how it goes. All right.
Sounded normal to me.
Oh, we did it? Okay. And joining me and us eventually from his home studio,
In Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. Just us old men and our fantastic producer at the moment. Which month are we in? What was it? February?
February.
February.
Feb. The second month of the year. And
Well done, sir.
quit picking on me. You're so mean. And from a place to stand, place to grow. I don't know what to say. I'm going to do that again. And, nope. Boy. Let me take another
Where's
swig of
Roger when
wine.
we need him?
The problem is this is stuff that he doesn't do.
I know this is not Roger.
But
I realize
it's his fault, though. He threw me completely off
I
because
know
I had to do all
it's
his stuff.
fault. Yeah, we're
Okay.
blaming
I mean,
him.
I have just so much to work with up
Capacity.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Donna Rose. I hope that you just got here and you didn't see all the things I've just screwed up.
She knows.
All right. Here we go. And a place to stand, a place to grow. Our producer from Ontario, Canada. She's a retired financier, an aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master. It's Liz Piper.
Hi, everybody. Let's hope things get better from here.
Yeah, they couldn't get any damn worse.
Thanks.
See you later, guys.
Stand by for news. Thank you, Paul Harvey. All right, let's start with the first item in our news segment, which is an incident. This is from Aviation Herald, avherald.com. Our good friend Simon over there does a fantastic job of providing great news. And this involves a United Boeing 777-200 registration 774UA performing flight 384 from Denver, Colorado to Honolulu, Hawaii, had landed on Honolulu's runway 4 right and was instructed to hold short of runway 4 left. The crew correctly read back that instruction. The crew vacated runway 4 right via high-speed turnoff. Kilo. Let me get the image up here at the screen. There we go. We can reference the appropriate part of the airport diagram at Honolulu International. And now let me go back to this. So they vacated 4 right via the high-speed turnoff, Kilo, and went past the short line for runway 4 left and runway 8 left. Tower instructed the crew to continue crossing runway 8 left and contact ground control. On ground, the crew was instructed to call a tower phone number. Ooh, that's never good. A Kamaka Air Cessna 208 performing a scheduled flight from Hawaii to Honolulu, Hawaii, was landing on runway 4 left at that time, and touchdown slowed and vacated the runway via taxiway Echo, about 360 meters, 1,200 feet short of the intersection of runway 4 left, runway 8 left, and taxiway Kilo. On February 16, 2023, the NTSB reported that they're investigating the January 23rd runway incursion at Honolulu International Airport that occurred when a Boeing 777 crossed runway 4 left and conflicted with a Cessna 208B that was landing on 4 left. No damage or injuries are reported. Weather at the time, well, do we even have to say what the weather was in Hawaii? I know it's always, it seems like it's always
I'm assuming
nice.
It was foggy and cold, all the
Yeah.
snow on the ground.
Low vis approaches.
It's obscuring all the signs.
Just there, yeah, it's true. There was a few clouds here, a few clouds there, scattered clouds. 81 degrees, 27 C.
A couple of
19.
volcanoes going off.
Yeah, a couple of those going on. Might have been some volcanic ash kind of floating by the airport. Maybe that was a part of the problem. Anyway, so as we're seeing here on the airport diagram, it's the 4 left and 4 right, parallel runways there, and it looks like that taxiway, high-speed taxiway exit Kilo, it's pretty it's short. It looks short to me. I don't remember. It's been a long time. Yeah, there we go. Sam says not much space between the runways.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Those are very tight together, the left and right runways. So, you're in a bit of a mess of the signs that would be for the runway behind you, and then very quickly you're into the signs for the 2 runways ahead of you. So it's probably going to be a bit of a mess. But hopefully these guys would have pre-briefed which turn off they expect to take, and covered that as a possible threat in their pre-flight briefing.
In this case, that's accurate.
Yes, very accurate. About half an hour prior to landing. So, they should have been well aware of the dangers there, apart from the fact that it's all highlighted with hotspot warnings there. It's one of 3 in very a tight area. In fact, 4. So, not something you could easily ignore.
No, but again, Sam in our audience says that he's not sure that a 777 holding short would be clear of 4 right. The tail might.
Yeah,
still
and that's a very good point, because as you're taxiing clear, you're very conscious on a long aircraft of where the back end is and making sure you've got it far enough away of the runway you've just vacated to ensure that any subsequent landing aircraft, you're not inflicting their safety zones as you sit there parked up. So, and bear in mind, you're up quite a few feet, and you're trying to look down onto these indications, and they'll disappear under the nose pretty quick if you just roll a little bit too far forward. But quite honestly, it's very doable to park yourself up in that spot, and I would have thought the crews would probably have been there before, so they probably understood the dangers. I'm not quite sure what went wrong on this day.
No. Well, they're investigating, and hopefully they'll determine the causes or contributing causes for this incursion. Yeah, they'll find somebody to blame, Liz, for sure. Don't worry.
Yes.
Oh, you know what?
But it's something that's been forefront of our minds for years now, because it was identified as a major threat, for the next major accident that's going to occur on an airfield is probably going to be a collision a la Tenerife. So, all these systems are being bought out and fitted that will provide automatic red stop lines for aircraft approaching runways, and these additions to all our landing charts so that we know where the hot spots are and where the likelihood is that we'll have problems. We've got much better taxi awareness now, because most of our iPads and other electronic flight bags have GPS attached to them, so you can actually see yourself taxiing around the airport maps. So, whilst the kit is getting better, we're still having these sort of incursions, and we know what sort of a result we're going to have if someone makes another mistake. We've had quite a number on the last show and this, so it is a bit of a worry.
Well, I think that Captain Nick and I know exactly what's happening out there right now. The experienced, really good pilots of ages past, like Captain Nick, retired, and soon-to-be retired Captain Jeff, they just, the kids these days flying these jets, they don't know what they're doing. They just don't know what they're doing. They're unsafe.
Just like the policemen. They're so young nowadays that how can they possibly understand?
I know. So I'm looking. I should have gotten a larger view of the airport diagram there. Sam was making, or somebody made the, maybe it was Sultan of Wings. Somebody said something about the fact that, Brad, not sure the stopping performance of a 777, but it seems that they got stopped rather quickly to make taxiway Kilo. And looking at this airport diagram, they could have continued down all the way. I guess they would have had to gone down to the very end of the runway and around, and that would have added a few more minutes. Maybe they were just eager to get off the jet and get to the what are they Mai Tais and the luau, and is it Mai Tais that they drink there? Pina coladas and
Yeah, probably.
I like pina coladas.
Mind you, it sounds like the land and hold short procedures were in force. Like that first sentence, Jeff. It had landed on Honolulu runway 04 and was instructed to hold short on 04 left.
There you go. Another example of the lack of reading comprehension skills from me. Sorry.
But it is quite a short bit of of runway to do a land and hold short. But I think they would have planned to come off at Kilo.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, and then as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, if that was the plan, they probably should have brief the fact that it might be a kind of a quick stop once we exit 4 right and hold short of 4 left and 8 left.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see what happens with the investigation, and maybe we can all learn something from it. Maybe we'll get a final report like this next one that we're going to cover. And it is, thank you, Liz. You gave me the segue, but...
I'm just going to, before you move on, just going to correct myself. The hold short, of course, was for the parallel, not for the runway that they were approaching, which was 08. So I probably led you down the garden path there a little.
I think that the hold short point is for both of those runways because they both intersect at that point. Okay. Both 4 left and 8 left.
Yeah, but I think I may have just made an assumption that meant land and hold short procedures were in force.
Okay.
I don't think they necessarily were. We were never allowed to do that, so we always ignored land and hold short because foreign crews aren't permitted to do that.
Oh, well, you know what? That used to, when they first introduced those many, many years ago, I mean, they made a big deal of it, and a lot of places were using that, but it's kind of gotten out of favor, and most of the places that we go to now, or at least that I go to now, you hardly ever see, very rarely, and if it is land and hold short procedures in effect, it's usually like at the very far end of the runway, so it's not like, okay. I don't know, it's just different than it was when they first implemented these land and hold short procedures, but good point.
Yeah.
Okay, let us continue with this final report, and we've talked about this many times on the show. I'm not going to play the video again, where the lady says, "Well, I think we landed," after they came skidding to a stop in the snow and ice covered dirt between runways. So the final report was released on the 6th of February. The flight crew, the probable causes of the accident were what should I tell you what happened first? The tower controller, they were coming into Chicago O'Hare runway 10 left the first time. And the snowy day, not great weather. Chicago, in what time of year was it? It was November 11th of 2019. The tower controller issued instructions for this flight to go around. The controller did not provide a reason for the go-around instruction. The flight crew performed a go-around maneuver and subsequently discussed with the company dispatcher the possibility of diverting to an alternate airport or changing the alternate to one closer to the airplane's position. However, and the reason why they do that is that you'd have more fuel to work with in case you had to hold, or for what, it just gives you more options. However, the flight crew elected to make another approach to the destination airport, which again is Chicago O'Hare. During the second approach to runway 10 left, the tower controller informed the flight crew that the runway condition code was 555. Which indicates good braking action across all 3 runway zones, touchdown, midpoint, rollout. However, the controller also informed the crew that other flight crews had reported the braking action as medium to poor until taxiway November 3, which was located about halfway down the runway, and then poor past that point. The controller cleared the aircraft to land and reported that the wind was from 360 at 17 with gusts to 24. Okay, so they're landing on a basically east-facing runway, and the winds are out of the north, so it's almost a direct crosswind of 24 knots. Given the runway orientation, the steady-state wind speed would have resulted in a crosswind component of about 16 knots. The company's maximum crosswind limit during landing was 30 knots for a dry runway, or if the braking action is reported as good. Now, I think the reason why they put that in there is that many of our airlines, if the crosswind gets to be a significant figure, the crosswind limitation, when the braking action report results in lower friction and not so good braking, the crosswind limitation starts coming down, or at least for my airline, it's not really a limitation; it's guidance. But they say, hey, think about it. If you don't have a good friction on the runway, it's going to be difficult to keep tracking straight down the runway if you have a high wind, pushing you one way or the other. Anyway, the airplane touched down on the runway center line, but as the captain applied the brakes and reverse thrust, the airplane moved off the center line. The crew stated the airplane started swerving to the right when its indicated airspeed was about 80 knots. As the captain applied corrections to maneuver back to the center line, the airplane started to slide to the left. Captain stated that he applied maximum reverse and brakes, but the airplane continued to slide to the left. A flight data recorder, FDR data, indicated that after the landing, thrust reverser deployment, and brake application, the airplane was tracking slightly right when the captain was commanding slightly left. At 80 knots, the airplane veered to the left and the captain commanded airplane nose right, rudder. However, rudder effectiveness at slower airspeeds and with thrust reversers is reduced, and left turn was not arrested. This is a tail-mounted engine jet, by the way. I should be showing the picture of it. I do, Liz. I was just thinking to myself, I should probably throw a picture up there so you can see what that tail-mounted engine airplane looks like. Yeah, kind of like the 717, but a little bit smaller. Okay. The data also shows that no more than plus or minus 3 degrees of rudder deflection was used. So not a lot of deflection of the rudder. Anyway, let's just go right to the NTSB probable cause, the flight crew's inability to maintain the airplane on the runway center line after touchdown due to the reduced braking action resulting from the deteriorating weather conditions, which caused the airplane's departure from the runway surface. Contributing to the accident were the delay in performing the runway assessment for undetermined reasons and failure to close the runway. Also contributing to the accident was a controller's failure to advise the accident flight crew that braking action was no longer consistent with the previously published notice to Air Mission, which described braking action as good across all 3 runway zones. Yeah, there's another part here. They talked about another flight talked about poor. Past November 3, the runway was poor braking action. And according to Envoy Air's Operations Manual, which contained Federal Aviation Administration guidance about runway condition assessments, a pilot report of medium indicated that braking deceleration or directional control was noticeably reduced, and a pilot report of poor indicated that braking deceleration or directional control was significantly reduced. Both the captain and the first officer indicated that, according to company guidance, the runway condition codes are controlling and that pilot reports are advisory. Thus, it was reasonable for the flight crew to attempt to land on the runway based on the reported runway condition code of 555. Yeah, so I think that there's, we always talk about communication on this show, how important it is. And good communication and accurate information would have helped in this situation. I think that they really understood that the braking action was not really good, or 555. They may have decided to proceed to an alternate, and we wouldn't be talking about it on the show.
Yeah, I think there's still a high level of responsibility on their traffic controllers as well, because they had already dispatched vehicles out there to do braking tests on the runways because of the pilot reports. They weren't required to do it for another 30 minutes, but they had a couple of vehicles out there, I believe, that were waiting to go on. But because there are aircraft in the approach, the controller wouldn't let them on because he wanted to get the aircraft down. Which is, a bit of a conflict, because obviously if you sent these boys around and put a test vehicle on and they'd prove that the conditions weren't 555, they weren't good all the way along, they would have had to switch them on to a clean runway or close the runway until they had swept it, and this accident would not have happened.
Yep. I agree. And I think the NTSB does as well. Okay, let's continue. Next item here from Seattle Times. I did it again. Thank you, Liz. I always advance to the next one, and then as we finish, then I go to the next one and skip. Yeah, sorry. Bad host. Okay, let's go to this next item, a FedEx Boeing 757-200 freighter, registration November 949FD, performing flight 1170 from Fort Worth Alliance, Texas, to Tulsa, Oklahoma, with 2 crew, was cleared for a visual approach to and landing on runway 18 left. However, they lined up with runway 18 right and continued for a landing on runway 18 right. After the aircraft vacated the runway at the end, the crew informed Tower they had landed on the wrong runway. They probably realized sometime about halfway through their landing roll, ooh, this just feels like a really short runway. Let me put the slide up here. There is the airport diagram for Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, I operate in and out of there quite often. That, of course, is we have a lot of great APG community members. Larry Gregory and Sean King and Josh Glaze, and I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody, JJ from Tulsa, and others, very important people that live in the Tulsa area. And we always use 18 left or 36 right because it's 10,000 feet long and just a nice runway.
It looks a full width runway as well. Whereas,
Yeah, I think it's a 200-foot wide runway as well.
Yeah, 18 right looks a bit narrow.
Yeah,
And
that's
only 6,000 feet long.
right, and that's over there near the fixed base operations. The general aviation segment of the aviation world are over there on that side of the field. Most of them, anyway. And so, yeah, 6,101 feet long. It's not like they were landing on a 3,500-foot runway or something. But they realized, of course, at some point that this was not 18 left. And they fessed up, and nothing bad happened. Yeah, that's a good point, Liz. She said it's interesting that the controller didn't notice that they were lined up for the wrong runway and landing on the wrong runway. On July, that's the preliminary report. Is this, wait a minute, don't we have a final report on this? Okay. Oh, no, I guess the reason why we're talking about this is that on February 14th of this year, the NTSB opened their investigation docket. Okay. So we await further analysis and result. Nope, not the final report. It's the preliminary and the investigation docket. Usually when they open up the investigation docket, though, I think it means that they're getting close to the final report. Okay. Let's move on now to the one that I was trying to get to. D, again from Seattle Times. Thank you. Or you can do that if you want, but here, I'll do it. Yeah, I think so. You can. We're doing something new here, folks, with the slides.
Just for
today.
change?
Yeah, just for the heck of it, because we like to, switch it up. Okay. SeattleTimes.com. After Alaska Airlines planes bump runway, a scramble to, quote, pull the plug. This is February 18th when this article was published. On the morning of January 26th, as 2 Alaska Airlines flights from Seattle to Hawaii lifted off 6 minutes apart, the pilots each felt a slight bump, and the flight attendants at the back of the cabin heard a scraping noise. As the noses of both 737s lifted skyward on takeoff, their tails had scraped the runway. Both planes circled back immediately and landed again at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Tail strikes happen occasionally in aviation, but 2 in quick succession was not normal. Brett Payton, Alaska's on-duty director of operations, immediately ordered no more planes were to take off across the airline's network. All Alaska flights not already airborne were stopped nationwide. At that point, 2 in a row like that, that's when I said, no, we're done, said Payton. That's when I stopped things. For Payton, who was an Air Force lieutenant colonel, that decisive call was a heart-racing moment. But few travelers, apart from the passengers aboard the 2 Hawaii flights who had to wait several hours to continue their journey, would have noticed anything amiss. The stoppage only lasted 22 minutes. Alaska's flight operations staff quickly realized that there was a software bug and was sending bad takeoff weight data to its crews. They immediately figured out a workaround and normal flying resumed. On Tuesday, following a series of recent safety incidents and dangerous close calls around the U.S. aviation system, Acting FAA Administrator Billy Nolan wrote a call to action letter warning that the U.S. system's stellar safety record mustn't be taken for granted. The January 26 tail strikes at SeaTac were not close calls. The passengers on those Hawaii flights were never in danger. Still, the mishaps point to the need for more vigilance by pilots in checking automated data. We rely on that data to safely operate the plane, said an Alaska Airlines captain who has flown 737s to Hawaii and asked for anonymity because he spoke without company permission. Yet the incidents also offer some reassurance in the way Alaska promptly shut down service until it understood the cause and they fixed it. Alaska dealt with it very quickly and appropriately, the captain said. The first incident occurred when Alaska Flight 801, a Boeing MAX 9, headed to Hawaii's Big Island, lifted off at 8:48 a.m. At 8:54 a.m., just 6 minutes later, Alaska Flight 887 followed, this time a Boeing 737-900ER, headed to Honolulu, so not a MAX. To determine the thrust and speed settings for takeoff, Alaska's pilots and others use a performance calculation tool supplied by a Swedish company called Dynamic Source. It was the Swedes' fault. It delivers a message to the cockpit with crucial weight and balance data, including how many people are on board, the jet's empty and gross weight, and the position of its center of gravity. Just as an aside here, this is Captain Jeff speaking, flying for Acme Airlines. We use a similar system, not a third party. We have our own load planning department, and the performance data, load data, and everything else is handled by a department at Acme. And that information is sent to us via the ACARS system, and that gives us and we're able to upload by hitting some keystrokes, upload the data to our flight management system. Thanks, Liz. Okay. A pilot at American Airlines, which uses the same Dynamic Source performance data tool, and who also spoke anonymously because he didn't have authorization, explained that the computer then calculates just the right amount of engine thrust so the pilots don't use more power than necessary. The goal is to lower the power used on takeoff, he said. That reduces engine wear and saves money on fuel and maintenance. Flights to Hawaii are typically full, with lots of baggage and a full load of fuel for the trip across the ocean. The planes are heavy. That morning, the software bug in an update to the Dynamic Source tool caused it to provide seriously undervalued weights for the planes. The Alaska 737 captain said the data was on the order of 20 to 30,000 pounds light. With the total weight of those jets at 150 to 170,000 pounds, the error was enough to skew the engine thrust and speed settings. Both planes headed down the runway with less power and at a lower speed than they should have. And with the jets judged lighter than they actually were, the pilots rotated too early. Both the MAX 9 and the 737-900ER have long passenger cabins, which makes them more vulnerable to a tail strike when the nose comes up too soon. Let's see. Alaska says it operated 727 flights that day. I thought they had retired those. Oh, I'm sorry, 727 flights that day, of which just 30 took off with incorrect takeoff data. So 30 out of 727 is pretty low percentage. Yeah, you're right, Liz. The fact that these two flights had taken off so closely together, or time-wise, definitely was a big clue for the managers to say, and two tail strikes within 10 minutes or less was something that just wasn't a common thing to occur, and that kind of clued them in that something's not right. So it could have been a lot worse had they not put a halt to their operations and worked out what the problem was. And to fix this in just 22 minutes, I think they said. That's pretty quick and very impressive. In fact, I think that you could probably say, if I can find it.
Very impressive.
Yeah, I agree, Captain Nick.
Yes.
Wow.
Quick, certainly, but makes me think that they might have, just stopped things working for the moment. They must have had a pretty good clue what had occurred. in that length of time to decide to put a stop on all flights until they'd fixed, or at least got a workaround.
Yeah. Let's see, a quick interim fix proved easy when operations staff turned off the automatic uplink of the data to the aircraft and switched to manual requests. We didn't have the bug anymore. Let's see. Oh, Brad has a question. I understand the performance issue, but wouldn't the pilot recognize the over-rotation and avoid the tail strike? Well, that's a good question there, Brad. I think that that's something, for us, there are a lot of redundancies and backups and that kind of thing, but you have to use
It's not an over rotation, is it, Jeff? What it means is that you are rotating at a set rate to, let's guess, 15 degrees nose up. And during that rotation, you're expecting the aircraft to lift off and the tail to steer clear. If you're doing it too slowly, if you're rotating, say, 10 or 15 knots early, you're still going to rotate the airplane at 15 degrees, but your aircraft won't have left the runway. So because of that, you're going to bang the tail. So the guys they're not over-rotating, I don't think. I think what they're doing is they're doing a perfectly normal rotation, but the aircraft isn't lifting off in time to keep the tail clear of the runway.
Right. And maybe what he means is that I'm wondering, I don't know, because I've never, over or rotated the aircraft, 5 or 10 knots or more below the calculated rotation speed, the correct rotation speed, to know exactly what it feels like. But I'm wondering if maybe there is a different feel to it than you would normally have, to think, something's not right. But I think
it would normally rotate a little slower than you might expect, because you're going to have less control authority because you're going slightly slower.
Right.
So it might take a bit longer than normal.
But I think all of us would say that you have to, here's an Alaska captain, a quote from him. He said that as for many things in aviation, pilots routinely use an acronym when they do the pre-takeoff sanity check. TLAR, which means that looks about right. So we do have kind of, basic ideas of, based on the weight of the airplane, what we should probably see as far as, performance numbers that look about right. But I don't know. Maybe in this case, maybe there's not a way to really see that clearly, that something is really not right.
Yeah, I think it's just having a general feel for what weight your aircraft should be and going, hang on a minute, this looks a bit light. Don't we have a full load? And, trouble is that the aircraft I operated, for example, you used to you could easily have a 70 or 100 tons of weight difference from one flight to another, depending on the passenger load and what kind of cargo you had on board. So those kind of rounded guessed figures, will we normally have that weight for this flight of this, the time of the day? It can be a little hard. There was no real rule of thumb to use, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess the bottom line for this is that how important it is to, check those numbers. Don't completely be, complacent when it comes to just assuming that the automatic data that arrives at your jet is going to be exactly right, and kind of have an idea. And then when you're actually in the process of trying to get the airplane to fly, and I don't know, I've never flown this airplane model. I have heard that it is very sensitive to tail strikes because of from the main landing gear back is a huge piece of fuselage, and there's not a lot of clearance, and you have to be very careful with the rotation. And it may have been just so quick that it just happened so quickly that there was nothing that they could do to counteract it. I don't know.
Well, the rotation rate is, your rotation normally takes, 5 seconds? And by the time you get to your the target angle, nose angle that you're going for to get the aircraft off, it's very hard to work out, like in my experience, that you haven't left the runway. I mean, the aircraft's starting to get lighter, but you've got to have clearance of the back end because you've started to lift the wheels off, and you've only got 1 or 2 seconds to go. Oh, hang on a minute, I haven't got off, and what are you going to do then? You're going to push the aircraft forward again, or what are you going to do? You're going to put more power on. There's lots of things you could do to try and rescue the situation, but most people would just hang on and wait just for the airplane to fly away. But you're probably a bit late on a long airplane when you've scraped the end. I was just going to go back to the FAA's comment from. I'm trying to find it now. It was the FAA's administrator who seemed to. Here we go. Acting FAA administrator. Blah 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 blah. Okay. No, I can't find it now. So he seemed to indicate that there was absolutely no danger. There was absolutely no worry in these 2 incidences. And I'm going, if you've underestimated the weight of your aircraft by 30,000 pounds, I don't know what that would be in tons, and I don't know the performance of this particular airplane very well, but I would take it quite seriously, any underestimation in weight, because of the fact that you're going to use a much lower power setting now. You're going to flex the engines back so that you don't need to use so much takeoff run. And if you're not on a particularly long runway, that difference in engine power could mean you spend a lot longer on the runway and get very close to the end, which is going to affect your first and second segment climb rates. If there are obstacles there which you would otherwise have cleared, you might be concerned that you might not clear them with sufficient space. So I'm not with the FAA here saying that there was no danger in these particular events. I wish I could find the quote, but it's a very long set of notes, and I can't, sadly. I saw it as we were going through it, as you were reading it, but there you go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. This happens to me all the time. I'm thinking, I know there's something in here that I wanted to quote or read, and I can't find it.
Yeah.
Until after we've moved on to the next news item. And then
exactly right. But I think this is quite a serious problem. I mean, this is a significant performance error, and I don't think it can be dealt with lightly. I think it's quite a serious one.
Yeah. Now, there's also said something here about the company that they contract with to provide this data. So they, let's see, the update to the dynamic source software had been tested over an extended period. The bug was missed because it only presented when many aircraft at the same time were using the system. So I think they're going to, a test of the software now is under high demand has been developed. So they've learned from this as well. It's pretty serious stuff. You got to make sure that the data that you're sending to these flights is accurate. Could have major negative consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah, we used to have a similar system before we started using electronic flight bags and things, and we ended up with a few erroneous zero fuel aircraft weights that we were feeding into the performance. Sending off to what I suspect might well have been the same company in Sweden. It was certainly somewhere in Scandinavia. And then a few seconds later, back would come your performance figures. So worked in a very similar way. But we had a few errors, and the company then devised a system that if you had put in the wrong weight, made a mistake between the final weight and the zero fuel weight, for example, put them in the wrong boxes, the system would recognize that there was likely to be an error, and it would go zero fuel weight, very low, please recheck your figures. so that it will give you a heads up that you might have put the wrong number in the wrong box.
Like when you if you have to manually enter your lat long when you're starting up your inertial reference system, and it goes, really? That doesn't seem like it's even close to where it was when this whole thing shut down. Check that again. And you can keep entering the wrong data, and finally it'll go, okay, uncle, I'll take it, but I don't think it's right. But here you go. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. I warned you. But yeah, usually that's one of those red flags, like if it keeps telling you to do something like over and over again, you're thinking, maybe I should investigate this a little bit more, see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Good discussion, and a great discussion and input from our audience, and several professional aviators in there. That's really helped. Thank you. I mean, that's the great thing about this show is our audience, our community, and helping us convey the message to everyone out there as accurately, or at least at 50%, if we can. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue with this next one. Pilot was held hostage by not held, or not was, but is. I don't know what the current situation is. Anyway, separatist rebels in Papua have released photos of an apparently healthy pilot. Here, let me add this to the stream.
Yeah, guess which one's the pilot?
I don't know.
Neither do I, actually.
And they took this.
I think it's
pilot.
the guy with the flag.
Yeah, exactly. They apparently took a healthy pilot hostage a week ago. Of course, this was February 16th, so it's been a few weeks. Philip Mertens, a New Zealander, landed his Susi air charter flight at Paro Airport in a fractious area of the Indonesian territory on February 7th. He was seized at gunpoint by members of the West Papua National Liberation Army, the TPNPB, who then torched his airplane. That's not nice. There were 5 passengers on the flight, but there has been no word about what happened to them. Whoa. The rebels, there are some tribes over there that are, what are they, the eat people. What is it called?
There were some, yeah, and I don't think it still happens, but they were one of the last places in the world where you could still find headhunters, and they used to shrink the heads.
Oh, boy. Anyway, maybe that's what happened to the passengers. I don't know. The rebels have been demanding that flights to Paro cease and say they won't release this pilot from New Zealand until they gain independence from Indonesia. Okay. The group claimed responsibility in a Facebook post on Tuesday. TPNPB has admitted the responsibility for the burning of the plane and taking hostage of a Susi Air pilot who is a citizen of New Zealand, and we keep our promise and are politically responsible, it said in the statement. Indonesia has controlled the region since 1969, and the rebels have been fighting it ever since. Indonesia considers the TPNPB to be a terrorist organization. New Zealand isn't commenting. So, He's still there, huh, Liz? Okay. Oh, that's not good.
Well, I've no doubt they'll negotiate their way out of this, but the remote parts of Papua New Guinea are pretty inhospitable, and I don't suppose they're anywhere close to what we would term civilized. So I expect this poor chap's having a bit of a rough time of it while they try and work out what they're going to do with them, and if they're going to use him to get their aims. I don't think the Indonesians are going to give up any grip on the country just because of this event, but it certainly it's hit the news. So
yeah,
the Papua New Guinean rebels are back on front page headlines.
Exactly. I don't know about you, but something about this picture it looks, I don't know, it looks familiar to me, I think. Oh, that's it. Yeah. So, okay. If you're listening to the audio-only podcast, you have to watch the videos to see the picture I threw up there. And threw up is probably a great word for it. Okay. Moving on to This next one from Paddle Your Own Canoe.
This is bound to be fun then.
Yeah, a small fire inside New York JFK's Terminal 1 led to big consequences with a 16-hour, quote, flight to nowhere when an Air New Zealand flight from Auckland was forced to return to Aotearoa, a place in New Zealand after it had, that's their indigenous people's name for New Zealand? Oh, okay. Well, why did they do that to me? They could have just said New Zealand.
I believe that means white, a long white cloud.
Oh,
I think.
Okay. Liz says, you are correct, sir. Anyway, a 16-hour flight to nowhere where when an Air New Zealand flight from Auckland was forced to return to New Zealand after it had already made it halfway across the North Pacific Ocean en route to New York. The fire broke out in the early hours of Thursday morning at JFK. It was quickly and safely extinguished, but not before it damaged power systems that left the entire terminal without power. Terminal 1 serves around 20 foreign airlines, and while some carriers...
they would never have a fire in one of the domestic terminals.
Well, no.
All the American airlines. No, it's all the foreign blokes that cop
I
it.
see.
Yeah.
Mr. Conspiracy theorist guy. Terminal 1 serves around 20 foreign airlines, while some carriers were able to divert aircraft into other terminals, others were told there was simply no spare capacity and that they wouldn't be allowed to land at JFK on Thursday. Air New Zealand found itself marked as one of the airlines that wouldn't be allowed to land at JFK, but not before its ultra-long-haul NZ2 Auckland to New York flight had already taken off. In fact, by the point that the pilots of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner finally learned that power at Terminal 1 wouldn't be restored in time for their arrival, they had already been in the air for more than 8 hours. At this point, that's like 10 times longer than my average flight. At this point, the pilots reportedly made a suggestion to at least get the passengers to the United States. Messages from the flight deck that were obtained by aviation insider XJohnNYC on Twitter show how the pilots asked to divert to Houston, where passengers could get onward domestic flights or wait in hotels before continuing on to JFK. When this suggestion was rebuffed, the pilots even suggested a quick pit stop and crew change in some other U.S. city before carrying on to New York. This idea was also declined by the airline. Instead, the aircraft was forced to make a 180-degree turn and head straight back to Auckland, where the passengers and crew landed 16 hours after taking off from the very same city. A spokesperson for the airline, however, defended its decision to return to Auckland, saying in a statement that diverting to another U.S. port would have meant the aircraft would remain on the ground for several days, impacting a number of other scheduled services and customers.
I'm not sure that's entirely true.
Do you have your BS flag somewhere nearby?
Yeah,
that you can start
I do.
waving?
I've got a really big one, and I'm waving it right now.
Are you okay?
I mean, if you could min rest the crew 12 hours, and then they could take it on to wherever you wanted, and by that time they'd have probably sorted out the problems at JFK. So I'm not too sure about that. I'm with the captain or the crew on this aircraft saying, well, there's got to be a better way to treat our passengers than, particularly, the 100 or so that are down in economy, giving them a 16-hour tour of the ocean and then put them back on the ground again, back where they came from. I think that's probably not the ideal way to run the airline, but what do I know?
It's quite rude.
Yeah, I think so. My guess would have been put them anywhere in America, and min rest the crew, and try again in 12 hours time and see if you can get into JFK or whatever. It's got to be, or just somewhere close. You could even take them to Boston or somewhere and bus the crew.
Or Newark would be
to
like
New
right
York.
across the Hudson River.
Yeah.
Darn close, and they have.
I think there are a lot of ways they could have dealt with this, and I personally think turning it back was probably not the best one. But like I say, I wasn't there, so.
Well, it wasn't just the passengers on board the Air New Zealand flight that had a long day, though. A number of other flights were also forced to either divert or return to their origin, including Korean Air Flight 85 from Seoul, which returned to South Korea after more than 5 hours in the air. several other flights were able to divert to other New York area airports. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess they finally decided to draw the line and say, okay, we can't accept any more.
Yeah.
But, as you said, Captain Nick, anywhere in the U.S. would have been better
Preferable.
for the passengers.
Yes,
than,
that's right.
Yeah.
Virgin would have been fine because we have a very close association with Acme, so that we share a lot of their facilities at JFK. So they would have found us a parking space on one of their stands, and that would have been fine.
Yeah. Well, Main Man Micah in our audience says, I wish that Dispatcher Mike was around to discuss how this might have been handled. Yep. Not only is Mike a dispatcher, but he's also a big cheese in the Acme Operational Control Center. And he has a lot of knowledge and experience in dealing with this kind of thing. It's too bad that maybe, Mike, if you're listening, maybe you can send us some feedback and tell us, some of what's going on behind the scenes, or what would you have done differently? Yeah. Okay. What else to say here? The Air New Zealand saga comes less than a month after Emirates operated a 14-hour flight to nowhere when a Dubai to Auckland flight was forced to make a mid-air return because of wild weather that flooded Auckland Airport's international terminal. I see. Auckland, they did it to some other foreign carriers.
Yeah, they're just getting a taste of their own.
Exactly. Okay, we'll keep going. And this is from HuffPost.com. This was sent in from Radio Roger. A pilot flew around northern England with his aviation instructor unknowingly dead beside him after the man suffered a fatal heart attack, which the pilot thought was him just joking around. According to a newly released safety report, the pilot had just taken to the sky over Lancashire on June 29 when he said that the 57-year-old senior flight instructor, wait a minute, is he a senior flight instructor because of his age or because of his experience? Because that's pretty young compared to me.
Yes. I don't know. There's no such rank as senior flight instructor. No, it's an honorary, I think.
They embellished this a bit.
Yes.
Okay, let's say when he said that the 57-year-old flight instructor slumped over as if he were sleeping, according to the report by the Air Accidents Investigation Branch, which investigates civil aircraft accidents and incidents within the UK. The pilot, not identified in the report, said he had asked the instructor to accompany him for a single circuit around Blackpool Airport. This request followed the pilot canceling his initial plans to fly out of the airport solo after deciding that the crosswind was above his personal limit to fly on his own. The instructor agreed, so this guy was, pretty safety conscious and said, yeah, I need to go up with the instructor just to make sure. So the instructor agreed, and the pair spoke normally as they taxied on the runway in the single-engine Piper PA-28-161, which I think is a Cherokee Warrior. Shortly after takeoff, however, the pilot said that the instructor's head rolled back, and he appeared to be pretending to nap. The pilot said he thought nothing was seriously wrong, and he continued flying. The pilot knew the instructor well, thought he was just pretending to take a nap whilst the pilot flew the circuit, so he did not think anything was wrong at this stage. The pair continued to fly, and eventually the man's head slumped onto his shoulder, but the pilot still thought the instructor was just joking with him and continued to fly the approach. It wasn't until after they landed that the pilot became concerned as the instructor was still not responding. He signaled an emergency crew to assist, but the man could not be revived. A later autopsy determined that the man, who had a history of high blood pressure and had been taking medication for his condition, had suffered a heart attack. People who had spoken to him in the morning of the incident said he was his normal, cheerful self, and there were no indications that he was feeling unwell. It noted 3 people who flew with him before the incident said he seemed well and nothing abnormal had occurred. So, wow. So, what a joke.
Well, I mean, he must have had a medical, so it can't have been too serious a problem.
Yeah.
Very sad. I personally might have given him a shake and tried to see if he was all right a bit earlier, but he only basically did one circuit and landed, so that's fine and beaut. Whereas the first line of this story, which actually I think you might have just passed over, was a pilot flew around northern England with his aviation instructor unknowingly dead. So it made it sound like he went for a tour of the countryside with a dead pilot beside him. But no, I think he just did the one circuit, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, that's Northern England. He's flying around it.
Well, technically, I suppose it is. Not the way I interpreted it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sad. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? These jokers. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, but there you go.
Yes,
We're
you're
gonna
right,
die
Liz.
at
He
some
died
point.
doing something he loved. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. We should probably move on to the next segment, which, of course, is Getting to Know Us. The time of the show where we kind of get all caught up in what everybody's been doing. Well, everybody that's here to let us know what's been going on with them. Oh, that's right. Steph is on her way home. So hopefully she'll be joining us soon. Of course, it's Friday afternoon.
Hooray.
Traffic is usually not very pleasant, especially around this hour of the day, 5 o'clock.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we get a lot of people who leave early on a Friday. So the density of traffic is actually more spread out rather than all happening at cease work. A lot of people leave early, so I often find it better.
Well, the thing that I found, at least here in Atlanta, is that Friday mornings are usually lighter than your normal, day of the week commute to work. But in the morning of Friday, for some reason, I'm sure there's a reason for it, the traffic is lighter. But the afternoon rush hour traffic on Friday in Atlanta, where it normally starts maybe around 3:30, 4 o'clock, it starts maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever. It's like much earlier, and it's just awful. Yeah.
Oh dear.
So
I guess it's people getting away for the weekend, is it?
I guess I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with it. I've always scratched my head and wondered why is it so light this morning? It's Friday, but whatever. Anyway, thank you, Liz. We're at the 1 hour mark, she says, so we're on track here on our segment schedule. And let's see, Nick, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I want you to go first because
Okay.
it sounds interesting.
Yeah, I have a few things to talk about. I flew, well, I had to, I did the weekend thing. I think we recorded on Saturday morning, and then I had the singing Saturday afternoon, evening, and then actually, I had a little bit of a sleep-in on Sunday morning. I didn't have to show up until midday and did 2 masses on Sunday. And then had Monday off, and I had my FAA first-class physical, second to last one, only one more to go in August, and passed that with flying colors. And went out on Tuesday on a trip, 2 trips this week, two-day trips, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I was contacted by a gentleman, an APG community member for some time now, that he's wondering if I might like to and maybe have my first officer join us as well, have a little meetup in Tallahassee. And I said I would be very happy to. So it was a lunch meetup, and I have some audio to play. Fingers crossed that this will actually play. And let me put the picture up here. All right, we'll add this to the stream and hit play on this.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Yeah, we can stand right there in front of that. And
Oh, wait a
should
minute.
Be able to work that in. All right.
Oh, yeah, that's what she said. Let me advance this to this point here. Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. We are, and when I say we, I mean my favorite first officer, not long before he's no longer a first officer, Brent, and APG community member for quite some time now, Ken Hayes. And we're Ken picked us up from the hotel here in Tallahassee, Florida, and we drove up to, what is this place called?
Greenland Barbecue.
I know, but what is this area called? Like Center,
This is
something or
Tallahassee
other?
Center or something. They
Yeah.
keep renaming it as they go through new management companies for this mall. It used to be the Tallahassee Mall, but I think it's Tallahassee Center at this point. And It's in the middle of a redevelopment cycle, but these guys opened up a outlet for the Dreamland barbecue people, and they've got a nice, lovely outside but under the cover set of barbecue tables, and with big ass fans on the ceiling, which we don't need today because the weather is spectacular. But come July or August, you need them, and we're having a great time.
We are in Dreamland Barbecue. I guess they started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and which I wouldn't imagine that the FSU fans would really take kindly to, but
we don't mind where your barbecue came from as long as you understand that you're here now.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, I understand that and I accept that. And the Big S fans, I'm looking around. This is a huge space that we're sitting under, and it's really it's kind of a cloud-covered day. A temperature in the probably low 70s. Nice little breeze blowing through here. I think this area could probably hold several hundred people, maybe 1,000 or more underneath this thing with all these big ass fans over. And there, I see at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 big ass fans. There might be more. Anyway, so it's really, really, really nice. And the barbecue, Dreamland does a really nice job. And we're really enjoying the food and camaraderie. And Ken, if you want to say anything to the folks before we end the thing.
I'm just going to say, if you're ever coming to Tallahassee, give me a holler. We'll get together and either go to the coast or come here. Pick one.
Awesome. And he's got a really nice car that doesn't make any noise, except for the tires. He's got a nice little Tesla that will take you around. It's pretty cool. And Brent, you want to just abstain, or do you want to say a quick hello to everybody?
Well, hello, everyone. It's a nice winter day here in Tallahassee, and we've had such an exasperating, hard trip today. This one leg into the barbecue land we came. It's nice to meet Ken.
Yep. This is the way to fly, isn't it, Brent?
You got that right.
One leg from Atlanta, 39 minutes, take off to landing, and kind of do the reverse tomorrow morning and then call it a day. Yeah, so we're really enjoying this Fat Tuesday, this Mardi Gras day, and we hope you all had a great time as well. Now back to you all in the studio. All right. Thank you.
I don't know, Jeff. I can't see any other customers or any waiting staff. Did you actually get some food and beer?
Well, so there were other people there, but they were inside the establishment. And we decided to, because it was such a nice day, just to eat out, adjacent to to where the Dreamland barbecue was situated. But we was on the what time did he pick me? Yeah, it was like I guess he's saying that this area is a little bit depressed and it's still trying to recover from the pandemic, and they haven't gotten the crowds to come back yet. And it was before noon, so maybe we were just right before the lunch rush. I don't know. But yeah, there weren't a lot of people there. It was very quiet, very peaceful. What did you say, Liz? The barbecue was excellent. And I actually have a Dreamland barbecue just right up the road here in Roswell. And I've been several times, and it's very good barbecue. So when
the same menu, or do they vary?
It's the same. Yeah, it's like it's a chain, sort of like. It's not like a big chain. They have stores in various locations, not a lot of places, all in the South, I believe. And it started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and branched out from there.
So what did you have? I'm just curious.
I had pulled pork sandwich and some Brunswick stew for my side. And let's see, Ken had something I'm going to have to try. I don't know if they have it here. I'm assuming it's the same menu up here, like rib tips, I think they call them. Kind of like I think that Kansas Cityans like the burnt ends or whatever, and it's kind of reminded me of burnt ends, but it was from the ribs, not, I guess, or maybe that's where that comes. The burnt ends come from the ribs too. I just was thinking it came from the brisket, but now that I'm thinking about it and saying it, I'm thinking, well, maybe burnt ends are always from ribs. Hey, help me out in the chat room, you barbecue experts. Let me know. But anyway, it looked really good what he had, and Brent had pulled pork plate with a couple sides. So it was yummy.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And normally I'd have a beer, but I didn't because I gave up beer, or I'm attempting to anyway, for Lent. And oh, wait a minute, that was Fat Tuesday. Oh, wait a minute. But why didn't I have a beer then? Oh, what's wrong with me? Oh, it was a... Did they? Okay. Liz has just looked up the menu in Roswell, and they do have rib tips in Roswell. Maybe that's what I'll have for dinner tonight. Now that we're talking about it, I'm starting to feel very hungry. No, I can't. It's Friday. I can't have meat.
Then you got to have fish.
Mind. I'll have it tomorrow. Anyway, so that was meetup number 1 of this week. I had 2 meetups, and that was that first trip, and it was nice and easy peasy. Got home nice and early on Wednesday, early enough to do some more singing. Because that's what I do. I do flying, podcasting, and singing. And that's it. That's my life. And so the singing aspect of my life kicked in because it was Ash Wednesday on Wednesday. And did the noon and the 5 o'clock and the 7 o'clock. So, three different services / masses for that day. And then got home here and got a quick bite to eat and into bed because it was a very early get up. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning when the alarm went off. And flew the flight over to Charlotte and back, and then ended up in Dayton, Ohio. And 3 legs, Liz. It was tough. Yeah. And so a few days back, or maybe a week ago, I'm not sure how long ago, one of our community members, Andy Harris, who is also a big part of the several aviation communities, like the opposing bases folks. He helps them out a lot with their sound issues and sound stuff. And what did you say, Liz? Alpha Hotel, yes, Andy Harris. That's what we'd like to call him at the APG. And he contacted me and said, hey, would you be up for a meetup? And I said, absolutely. And I think it was just too much for Brent. He was so tuckered out from those 2 legs in the previous 2 days that he said that he couldn't. I know. I told him, hey, look, you don't have to go, And
such a tough life.
So Andy picked me up from the hotel in Dayton, and I suggested that we go to this place that I'd been to, and Captain Nick, you've been there as well, back in 2019, that first night that we spent in Dayton, Ohio, before we did the simulator and then tour of the U.S. Air Force Museum the next day. Mm-hmm. It's called Jimmy's Ladder 11, and I recorded. Oh, and Andy wasn't the only community member that showed up for this meetup. And so let me get the picture ready and pop it up there and find the audio file. And here we go. Hey folks, I am with 2 professional sound guys who are also student pilot and aviation enthusiast. And you've heard from both of these guys. Let me start over. Well, not start over. I'm going to keep this going. We're in Dayton, Ohio. Dayton. And just got finished with a really good meal here at Jimmy's Ladder 11. For those of you who remember and have been listening since 2019, this is the place that Captain Nick and I stopped the first night when we came up here to look at the U.S. Air Force Museum, and at least a half a dozen or so folks showed up for that meetup here at Jimmy's Ladder number 11. Our new hotel here in Dayton is just down about a mile away near the University of Dayton. But you don't care, and Shingles doesn't either.
Shingles doesn't care.
And we're not Dayton.
And we're not Dayton, at least not yet. I don't know. I am eligible, though. Okay. So we just finished, as I said, a really nice meal and drinks and great conversation. And I'm going to start off with Paul Verhagen. You've heard from him before. He's been to, I don't know how many meetups you've been to now.
3 or 4. I mean, first one, what's it, 2 here in Dayton and a couple in Columbus.
Absolutely. Yeah, you drove up, I think, the last time and met me for some a barbecue lunch over at Smokin' or Smoke.
You're right. Correct. Downtown. And picked you up at the hotel and took you around the block to the restaurant.
Yes. And both of these gentlemen hail from or live in, or both, the Cincinnati area. And so, Paul?
We're both West Siders in Cincinnati.
Well, I don't know what that means, but it must be a good thing. Okay, or I don't know. Maybe in your guys' case, maybe not. I'm not sure. But anyway, so Paul, just say hi to everybody in the community and add or subtract whatever you'd like.
And I give greetings to all, to Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, Rick, Liz, and what a pleasure to chime in with all of you each week and to listen and participate sometime. Had the great joy a couple of weeks ago to see the last built 747 land in Cincinnati. Actually, it came around once and did a low pass and then came back in and landed and taxied over to the south ramp, and that for me was pretty exciting right there. There were about 100 of us in the visiting area, and that's it. That's
awesome. He actually has personal video to prove that he was there when that last 747-8 came through on the flyby and the beautiful landing. Mm-hmm. All right, Paul, always nice to see you.
Always good to see you, Jeff.
And now, the guy that's kind of responsible for having this little mini meetup is Andy Harris. Andy Harris, as I mentioned, he's a pro sound guy, living in Cincinnati area. And I think, was it the first time I met you for the 500th? Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're going to let Andy, I don't have a multi-mic setup, sorry. So I'm going to hand Andy the mic.
So I've been listening to APG now since about 2017, and I've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours with the APG crew. I'm very appreciative of the hours and dedication that they spend with us and the questions that they answer for the whole community. If Jeff's ever in your town, I recommend meeting up with him and getting to introduce him. It's like meeting a rock star.
Not really. Thank you, Andy, for the kind words. I do appreciate that. And thank you for treating everybody to this wonderful dinner tonight. And I hope to meet up with you, Andy, and Paul again in the future.
I hope so. And everybody have a great day.
Yeah.
Back to you in the studio, Jeff.
Back to you in the studio, Jeff.
Back to me in the studio, me.
Very good.
So we had a lot of fun, a lot of great conversation, kind of half aviation and half professional audio stuff. But it was a good time. So I think I have one more photo here. And that's when I was actually grabbed Paul's bottom. He wasn't expecting it, apparently. Quite of a shocked look on his face. Anyway, I guess Nick didn't think that was funny.
Well. It's the second time you cracked it, Jeff.
No, that was the first time I showed that one.
Oh, okay. Right.
Here, this is the first one. Here's the second one. And then
there's so much difference. Oh, that one. Okay. Brilliant.
Oh, you weren't looking at it. That's why you didn't think it was funny.
Yeah, I was doing this bit. I'm doing this bit over here.
Okay. Tim Van Ram says, must be a classy joint wrestling on the TV in the background. Well, we weren't watching TV. I don't know what's going on. It is a classy joint. It's nice. It's an old firehouse that they renovated years ago. And
can you still slide down the pole? Or do they have dancers on it now?
I don't. Well, you were there. Do you remember that? In fact, right behind
No.
Paul, you see. Well, you hardly remember anything that happened like 3 weeks ago.
No, that's very true.
But we were all seated at the bar right behind Paul's head, right there, where that young lady is with her hair in a bun. I remember it well. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Apparently, Captain Nick didn't think it was important enough to.
I loved it. I think.
Yeah, probably.
I probably drank a bit much.
I had, and this I did not have a beer here. I had a gin and tonic, though.
A beer,
I didn't say
yeah.
I was giving up alcohol. But I had the Jimmy's sandwich, or whatever they call it. It's basically their version of a Reuben with Romanian style, what do you call it, pastrami, and the Thousand Island dressing and grilled rye and all that kind of stuff. It was really tasty. And let's see, what did Andy have? Andy had... I don't remember what Andy had. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you're right. And then Paul had a salad. Anyway, it was a busy week, but it was great, and because I just love spending time with people that listen to our show and support us, and it was a grand time. So today, Liz, I had one leg home this morning. It was early. Had to get up really early. Had to set the alarm for 3:30 this morning, and because it was a 4:30 pickup at the hotel. But yeah, it was tough. It was like an hour. The flight was actually more than an hour, block to block. That was kind of pushing Brent and I.
Yeah. You have trouble with the toilet, don't you?
It's not. It has nothing to do with that. It's more about being able to stay awake for that long. Anyway. Yes. Okay. So, Captain Nick, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I haven't been up to a great deal, but I've got something coming up, and let's see if I can do this bit.
Okay. While you're doing that, let me tell you, next week, I'm not scheduled to do a thing, although I do probably need to pick up some flying this next week, although I will enjoy having some time off too, so we'll see. The following week, a week from Monday, Brent and I are flying again, and we head out on Monday night and fly to Burlington, Vermont, and then we're off all day Tuesday, and then we fly one flight back from Vermont on Wednesday back to it. I do need to put that up on the calendar, Liz. I just haven't gotten around to it because I've been very, very busy with all my flying and socializing. Yeah. Are you ready, Nick? Are you still working on it?
Well, I just tried to share a screen, and nothing happened.
Let me stop. Let me stop my screen sharing and see if maybe that helps.
Okay. I went window.
I didn't think it mattered. I think that everybody can share this.
No, it's not working.
No, it is. I see it.
Well, I
add
can't.
It to stream.
Oh, there you go.
Well, that's weird.
I didn't add to screen, obviously.
I did. Oh. I know what happened. Captain Nick did his patented swipe the mouse, the Apple mouse thing. And if you do that with your Apple mouse, guess what happens?
Yeah,
that's what happens.
I rolled sideways on the Apple mouse. You can't see it anymore, can you?
No, you need to present again and share the screen and all that.
Window, share.
Okay, and now you got to go and hit add to stream, or I can do it for you if you'd like.
I can't see add to screen. Oh, there you go.
Oh, Liz did it for you.
Okay. Right. I don't know how to make it bigger, but there you go. Coming up.
Well, after the show, I'll explain it to you.
I've just realized what I said then. Coming up on the 16th of March. I'm only mentioning this now because you never know. We might have some listeners on the Isle of Wight. I know we've got Richard, whose idea this was, who's come to a number of our meetups and things in the UK. I'm giving a lecture to the Royal Aeronautical Society, the Isle of Wight branch. So they open their doors at 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'll start the lecture, and it run for between an hour and a half. And it's Chasing Bears in the Phantom. So that's their little promo there. Nice. It's at their the Isle of Wight College.
Main Hall.
Yeah, there you go. Main Hall, Isle of Wight College in Newport. So if we've got anyone over there who's interested. Oh, and I'll be staying the night in a rather nice hotel, which I think is called the Royal Albert House or Garden Hotel, something. Anyway,
sounds fancy.
We can stop screen now.
Okay,
there we go. So there you go. They're hosting and giving some meal and looking after me, so which is going to be very nice. Looking forward to that. That is happening, and What else? Oh yeah, our new dog has needed to be spayed because she came to us intacto, and we have no intention of breeding from her, so it's a lot easier. So she went in today, a couple of days ago actually, for a laparoscopy to spay her, and she's the one that normally now sits beside me during the show because she doesn't mind.
She doesn't go crazy when you're talking to nobody.
Crazy, yeah, exactly. Like poor Rugged Eyes, they're in bed. Anyway, she's all wrapped up with a special bodysuit on to stop her nibbling at the little scars. And she looks fine now. She's very happy, very relaxed, but we can't walk her. This is going to be a nightmare. They're such an energetic breed that, pardon me, not giving them long walks every day is going to be a problem. She's going to be trying to bounce around on the house. She'll be going mad after a few days, so we're not looking forward to the next week.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Anyway, that's really it. That's all that's happened in Shays Anderson. Do you want me to just mention last week's show?
If you must.
If I must. Well, I don't really mind because everyone will have seen it because they've downloaded the show, haven't they?
Of course, yes.
The title was No Diving, and it was referenced the pair of aircraft we covered that had managed to, during their climb out, turn it into a descent towards the ocean, which was not good. So I thought, well, they no diving. That makes me think of those signs you used to see at swimming pools that said no petting, no bombing. Is that what you call it in the States when you leap off the side and curl up into a ball and make a big splash?
Yeah, we call it a cannonball.
Okay, we used to call it bombing. And splashing all the girls. So I just tried to find a few signs, and the big one in the middle is very appropriate because that's a sign that I located and subtly changed from the no diving, put an aeroplane instead of the person diving in, and changed just removed a few letters. Prevent downing, what you used to say drowning. Watch children at all times, so I changed that to watch pilots at all times.
Watch those pilots.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not a lot of difference, of course, between children and pilots, but sufficient. You've got to keep an eye on them around the swimming pool. So that's what that was all about. It seems a rather nice view as well, actually.
Yeah, it's very nice. Now, I'm kind of confused because it's clear to me that is a high diving board with a ladder going up to it, but there's a sign on it that says no diving.
Yeah, I know. That's there to fool you. Well, at least the sign isn't there. The diving board's there to fool you. No, I've no idea. That was actually, I put that diving board there because I had to have a diving board somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That's great. And where is the show number located?
Oh, that's a good one. Where was the show number? If you look very closely at the big warning sign, underneath the exclamation mark, it says warning number, and there's the show number.
Where?
On little yellow letters
underneath
the exclamation sign.
Got to really zoom it in. Okay, I gotcha. I was looking at the exclamation point after diving. I'm going, well, I don't see what he's talking
right.
about.
Okay. No.
Yeah, so the triangular yellow
that's
exclamation.
The fella. Yeah, that's where it is.
Okay.
I was just wondering what aircraft type you think that is. It's kind of got rather strange winglets. Mind you, by the time I turned it into someone wearing goggles and a snorkel.
Yeah, never seen that one actually out there, but I don't know.
Go. Anyway, that was a bit of fun for last week. Looking forward to doing this week's, of course.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for doing that for us, and it's always fun to see what you're going to come up with. And let's see, anything else, or should we just move on to the coffee fun?
Well, I was waiting to see if Steph had pitched up, but I suspect she's still on the road.
She's still trying to make her way home in the traffic, and she saw some kind of a sticker on view from the flight deck. Got it. Definitely a McDoug bus.
That's the fella. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Let me read what Steph put here. There's a Jeep sticker that says, "I can't go fast, but I can go." Oh. What? Where are you seeing that? Oh, I guess I have to expand this. Oh, I see it. Okay. Go around. If my Jeep was meant to go fast, it wouldn't be shaped like a brick. And then, oh, you're the one, Liz, that said that you saw something on a Jeep that says, "I can't go fast, but I can go anywhere." Okay. It's a Jeep thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's
Well, anyway,
a worry, the Jeep thing.
That means that Steph is listening, I'm sure, and she's on her way home, so hopefully she'll be able to join us soon. But in the meantime, we can always do the coffee fund. And I gotta find it over here. Just to let you know, normally all the slides and stuff is a job that Liz takes care of very well. But we had a little glitch before today's show, and so we couldn't upload the file because it was too big. And so I'm operating in a different manner here, and I'm having to do all the stuff. So. Are you missing it? Okay, well, we'll get you back doing this again. It'll be very helpful for me too. Okay, well, let's do the coffee fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh, yeah. The Coffee Fund, it's your way to support the show financially. A couple different ways to do that. Now, there are a lot of ways you can support our show. You can tell people about it. You can recommend it. You can give us a great review. You can send us feedback. And that's a great way to support the show. And financially, if you have some extra cash hanging around and you want to donate it to us, we'd be more than happy for you to do that. You can become part of the Coffee Fund cadre, the Coffee Bar Club. And the one way to do it is called the Coffee Fund Classic method, which is basically set up for like one-offs, two-offs, whatever, not something you do on a recurring basis. Although you can, there are several people that use that Coffee Fund Classic method as a recurring contribution mechanism. And we do thank you all for that. You all know who you are. And the other way to do that is to become a patron of the show via Patreon, where you pledge a certain amount per episode. And information about that can be found on the airlinepilotguide.com website, airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. Please consider it. You'll be glad you did, and we will too. And you're wondering, well, why are you talking about all those wonderful people that contributed? Well, sad puppy face. We didn't have any contributor. Oh, you know what? Hang on. I just remembered something. About 45 minutes before we started the show, I got an email from Patreon, and it says that we have a new producer, Michael Allen Newman. Sorry, Michael, I didn't make a graphic for you because I didn't have enough time. But so we do have a new patron, and welcome aboard, Michael Allen Newman. And I need to take the doggy off. Okay, thank you. So thank you for joining and becoming a patron, and we do really appreciate your support. And if you guys want to do the same, as I said, head over to our website where you'll find information on how to do that. And now that means it's time for some feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Okay. Liz was just asking if I wanted to take a break, and I think I'm okay, actually. All right, let's go scroll down here to feedback, and let's start off with this. Actually, it was from a few people that were reacting to our coverage of the FedEx Southwest incident at Austin Bergstrom International a couple of shows ago, episode 556, where it was a near catastrophe, if you'll remember. And let's start off with this first one from Tom T. Gentlemen, I listened to the 556th show and want to thank and congratulate you, Jeff, Nick, Rick, for the demonstrated professionalism shown during the extended discussion about the loss of separation at Austin. This was the first time I can remember hearing the seriousness and anger in your voices. It was certainly not playtime. As mentioned, this incident was nearly an accident report. Thanks, guys. Tom T. Thank you, Tom, for the kind comments.
Absolutely.
We also received some audio feedback from somebody that's prominent in the aviation world and is also involved with a co-host of another, probably the biggest aviation podcast out there. And let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, hi there, airline pilot guy crew. This is Rob Mark in Chicago. I am a recovering air traffic controller after, 10 or 12 years, and I'm also a retired BizJet pilot. And maybe you might know me from being a co-host on the Airplane Geeks. But anyway, a quick comment on 556. Even though I've been away from towers and radar scopes for a long time, boy, that scared the bejesus out of me. It really did. When I heard that recording of the controller in the tower at Austin telling the Southwest guy cleared for takeoff with traffic on a 3-mile final, I yelled at my computer, "That ain't gonna work." Or imagine the controller in the tower saying, Southwest 1854, hold short of runway 18 left, traffic's on a 3-mile final in Cat 3 weather. Gee, what a concept. And really, what the Sam Hill was the rush to get Southwest out in front of FedEx. You guys covered an awful lot of the what ifs, and I think somebody may have mentioned, was this controller thinking about what would happen in Cat 3 weather if Southwest had aborted? Oh my God, let's not even go down that road. This controller didn't do himself any favors at all because of the way he used his voice. That is supposed to be part of air traffic control, the use of your voice to sound rather routine when things are routine. But when things are going on and they're busy, you're supposed to emphasize Southwest 1854. If you can take it right out, cleared for immediate takeoff, runway 18 left, traffic's a 767 on a 3-mile final. Do not delay, report rolling. That would have probably gotten somebody's attention in the Southwest airplane. They may have even said, you know what, we'll hold short of the runway. But, when we were in school, a long time ago, and I was a controller in the Air Force, they said your voice is a very important part of air traffic control, and you use it for emphasis. But seriously, as much as I'd like to just beat up the controllers, I cannot for the life of me imagine in that kind of weather why that Southwest crew even took that takeoff clearance. I mean, it was going to take them 60 seconds alone just to find the center line. I mean, I know it. I've been there. But listen, one other thing I want to leave you with, thanks for the opportunity to leave you a comment. Did you ever think that APG acronym, which I hear a lot of folks use in reference to airline pilot guy, could also be pointed to Airplane Geeks podcast? We're on episode 738. But, hey, I'm just saying. Hey, seriously, keep up the good work, guys, and we'll keep listening.
Staff, get the lawyers on the phone.
Yeah, we need to get some money out of them.
No. Shows... I think they're going to be suing us.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah, because APG, Airplane Geeks, I guess he's saying.
They don't use that, though, but we do.
If anything, AGP is Airplane Geeks podcast.
AGP.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know.
I think you made it your own, Jeff.
We're going to be okay, I think. Anyway, always good to hear from Rob Marks. I mean, he's
very recognizable voice.
Yes, very recognizable.
Lovely voice.
And for a time there, he was a senior executive or senior editor, I think, at Flying Magazine. People may have heard of that aviation publication here.
Most definitely.
Oh, Mohammed in our live audience said, that's nice audio feedback for me as a controller. Thanks, sir. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah,
Rob,
very
from
much so.
Muhammad and everybody else
Appreciate
out
it.
there. It's always nice to hear from Rob. He's a very busy man, but a lot of cred, a lot of aviation cred. So, and let's see. Finally, the third one here. Hi crew. It's been a while since we've chatted. Having retired after nearly 50 years. What?
Wow.
Oh, this is from Colin Goon, or as he says, Nettie Seagoon in Melbourne, Australia. Hi, crew. Been a
Nettie
while.
Seagoon.
Nettie Seagoon. That I don't understand the reference. Is some kind of a cartoon or something?
It's a very old radio comedy program starring some good old British comedians of the period. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So, from Colin. Hi, crew. Been a while since we've chatted. I was going to say that at the end, Liz, but okay. It's from Colin. Hi, crew. Been a while since we've chatted. Having retired after nearly 50 years as an air traffic controller. Here you go, Mohammed. Here's another one. I'm now so busy, I'm finding it difficult to work out how I ever had time for work. And I think that Captain Nick could probably relate to that.
Yeah, it's all the drinking you have to get done now.
Yeah, and it takes longer to recover.
Yes, for sure.
Regarding Southwest and FedEx, as there was no way of visually separating the two aircraft, the controller had to ensure that the minimum radar separation of 3 nautical miles was maintained at all times, which in this scenario was impossible to obtain and ensure. It was never going to work. Further complication is allowing for the go-around with the faster approaching aircraft catching the accelerating departure. If the departure had been a heavy with a lighter on approach, then wake turbulence separation is required to be applied in the event of a go-around. In this case, once the arrival is inside 10 miles, there's not enough time to get the departure away, taking all the factors into account. With one at 3 miles and low visibility conditions, the door was shut long ago to getting one away. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Colin. Nettie Seagoon. Say that again, Nick.
Nettie Seagoon.
Nettie Seagoon. I can't do it as well as you. Melbourne, Australia. Thank you very much, Colin, for sending in and your experience. 50 years as an air traffic controller. That's a long time. That's great. All right. Anything else to say? I'm sure that we'll probably be talking about this for some time.
Yeah.
We also have some feedback from AJ, and we covered the first half of his feedback on the last show, and we decided to, and he basically suggested that we do this as well. Let's do part 2 of his feedback. So you'll remember that he went out there and he was going to show off his flying skills to his friends, and he was going to retract the gear and impress them with how the 182 RG model, the gear retracts and makes a whirring noise and a nice thump or a couple thumps there as it retracts. It didn't work, so he had to return and got an airplane with gear down and welded. And he says, we again launched from Guntown Delta in the second 182 with the landing gear firmly welded in place and aimed the spinner south. I spoke with Tiny Air Force Base Tower and received permission to transition their Delta airspace while climbing through 2,000 MSL, which is 1,000 feet above the ground in the Atlanta area. I asked the tower for permission to switch to Grits approach. They approved, and I switched and contacted Grits approach with VFR flight following and class Bravo transition request. They gave me a code and informed me there was already someone in the transition corridor, and they could only allow one aircraft in the corridor at a time. Grits approach, which is Atlanta approach, said I could hold over Tiny Air Force Base Field, which is Dobbins, for several minutes or remain clear of the Bravo and go around. I was not comfortable orbiting around, brushing the top of the Dobbins Air Force Base Delta airspace, as I had heard a big scary flight of military jets request multiple PAR, which is Precision Approach Radar, approaches to that airport, so we opted for the Scud run around the Bravo. We successfully avoided a request for a phone call and picked up MB and CF, or Mike Bravo and Charlie Foxtrot, which are his friends, from Roundy Round Racetrack Airport, which is the Atlanta Speedway, and sought the skies once more for Barnstormers Field. After a short flight, we joined the pattern at Barnstormers and set up to land on runway 13, which is the uphill direction. The winds were variable and swirly and made for a slightly exciting short final amongst the tall Georgia pines. The landing was more Navy than Air Force, but I did receive a round of applause from the other occupants of my own personal pinball machine. After landing and on the rollout, I felt the airplane pulling to the right, and I started to feel that sinking feeling of a flat right main tire. It briefly got a little exciting again, at least from my perspective, as my cohorts remained blissfully ignorant for a time, because there was a noticeable decline on the right side of the runway, and I had to wrestle a bit to keep the plane on the runway, read as flat grass, not great grassy ditch. Interesting side note, it takes a lot of power to taxi a near gross weight airplane on grass with a flat tire. So noted for future endeavors. I did manage to get the airplane off the runway under its own power and onto the conveniently placed mechanic shop concrete ramp. Unfortunately, the mechanic shop was inconveniently closed on Sunday. Long story short, I know, I laughed when I wrote that too. With the help of some extremely generous and kind locals, we were able to source a tube and tire to get the airplane back home that evening. For the record, we found evidence the inner tube had a very small wear crack that did not appear to have spawned from the firm landing, and the tire was in perfect shape. My reputation and ego remains intact. All things considered, everyone enjoyed their experience and unanimously agreed they would like to go flying again. They are all former or current racers, which is code for gluttons for punishment. So go figure. Thanks for the great show and keep up the amazing work. Cheers, blue skies, tailwinds, and see ya. And this is AJ Schramm. And now, I don't know, racers, I guess he means car racers? I'm not sure.
No,
I don't know
about that.
And let me see, I think I can share.
But I do wonder how many orders of magnification he required to find his little crack on the inner tube.
Yeah, well, there's a picture on the video here, and we'll have in the show notes of the right main tire, and you can see it's not a big tire, and it is definitely flat. And there are his excited friends that he took up for the flying adventure. Excellent. And AJ, yeah, since we don't live that far apart, let's get together sometime. And in fact, you people that are, get some rib tips. Thank you, main man Micah, for explaining the difference between burnt ends and rib tips. Appreciate it. It's been a while since we've had an Atlanta area meetup, so maybe we need to do that sometime soon. Hey, maybe we can combine it. Oh, he's in the chat. Awesome. Auto racing. Okay. I kind of assumed that because you went down to Hampton and
good job.
The Atlanta Raceway.
So let me know, Alpha Juliet. I mean, did you have to resort to a microscope to find your small wear crack? Anyway, I'm only joking.
We'll have to wait.
Yeah.
For his response. You know what?
Great
I was
story,
thinking an Atlanta meetup. I think I have an idea for an Atlanta meetup sometime this year. Why don't we get together after I've retired and have a big party?
Nicely. Yes, that would be a good idea. Hairline 2 millimeters.
What I missed? Liz was talking to me in my headset. What did you say, Nick, that you were laughing about?
He says a hairline by 2 millimeters.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. And we're the update on Dr. Steph's progress. She's about 5 minutes out. Her ETA is 5 minutes from touchdown.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. Let's go to, let's see here. Got too many things going on. I'll stop screen sharing and go to Evernote and number 4. This is Alan. Alan's in the Southern Hemisphere. He said, greetings from down under. The local media are up to their old tricks again, pushing out stories for their sensational value with scant regard for the facts.
Oh, no, really?
Well, that never happens anywhere up here.
How would they do that?
A week ago, on January 18th, okay, yes, we've had this for a while. Qantas 144 from Auckland to Sydney, a 737-800, issued a mayday descended to a lower altitude and worked their engine checklists, and then downgraded this to a pan. Not your everyday occurrence, but not life-ending either. This is from one of the news outlets that tweeted this. Grave fears were held for passengers. And then he puts in parentheses, I have grave fears for the standard of news reporting. We all do. Next, from a major newspaper outlet, we saw gaping holes in the engine upon landing, otherwise known as reversers being deployed. It wasn't even the engine that had the issue. So I'm going to put this up. This is pretty funny. I'm going to show some of these tweets. Oops, that's you. Sorry,
Bye, Liz. Bye, Liz.
She's still there. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see. Here we go. Share. You do. Yeah, we need you. I need your help. Okay, there we go. There's some graphics. Look at those holes in the engine.
Oh, and my God.
And he said it wasn't
Engine
even
split in two.
I think it was the left engine that was actually having the problem. So, physical damage for sure. I mean, how can you fly around with a big hole in that thing like that?
Yeah, I know. It makes sense, does it?
Yeah. Trying to find Evernote. Okay, here we are. Next, from a major newspaper outlet, we saw gaping holes in the engine upon landing, otherwise known as reversers being deployed. Oh, wait, no, I just read that. It still astounds me that reporters are not able to find someone who has a modicum of knowledge to confirm if they were looking at damage, a hole in the engine, or if it was just working as designed. Rant over. He also adds, it was interesting to note that neither the captain nor first officer provided any information on the engine issue or the emergency declaration. The passengers were only made aware just prior to landing that emergency services would be greeting them upon arrival and not to be concerned. I was on a Qantas A330 flight from Sydney to Perth a number of years ago, an hour out from landing, when the captain came on the PA and indicated there were issues with one of the engines, which had a uncommanded spool down. He said they had shut down the recalcitrant engine and there was nothing to be concerned about. And then he gave a short spiel on how the aircraft was designed to run on a single engine, etc. He was very cool and calm in his messaging, and with 90% of the passengers asleep, not much reaction on board. We landed without drama and on time. I would be interested to see how Captains Nick and Jeff would have dealt with the situation from a passenger messaging perspective. Would you have told the passengers or left them in the dark? Looking forward to many more great shows from the crew and hopefully a meetup someday in my part of the world. Cheers and beers from Kiwi Al in Sydney, Australia. Now, remind me again, the engine issue, did they say exactly what they worked engine checklist, but they didn't really say that they flamed out or shut down the engine, did they?
Well, they declared a mayday, so it must have been reasonably dramatic initially, but once they secured the engine, they downgraded it. So it's obviously a bit of a non-event eventually.
So would you, this is one that I would probably have to wrestle with as far as telling them right away and then allowing them to really think about it for another 45 minutes to an hour or however long was remaining in the flight, or just mention it, or did they ever? No, they never said anything about it though, did they? No, he quotes another one where he did have a spool down on the captain. No, the passengers were only made aware just prior to landing, and then emergency services would be greeting them upon arrival, and not to be concerned. Yeah, I don't. It's hard for me to argue against that. Actually, I don't know. What do you think, Nick?
Well, it's happened to me, but then again, I was in a 4-engine airplane, so. When you lose an inboard engine and it just runs down, there's no bangs or thuds or visible change to it. I didn't see once we secured it, and the only thing we had to do was descend about 4,000 feet to a new cruise altitude because we were on now 3 engines. Where I couldn't see the point, quite honestly, of worrying anyone. We still have 3 damned engines, which is more than most transatlantic airplanes have. They usually start with 2, so we didn't bother. And the FO did the landing, and it was really fine. I think a few fire trucks might have trailed us in, but we'd had it secured for so long there was no real need for that even. So we didn't. On other occasions when I've had to dump fuel or we've diverted, etc., then obviously there is need for an explanation. I don't see any point, unless there's something happened that is going to cause people concern at the time. I don't see any point in waking people up during your flight when they're perfectly, just resting nicely and all relaxed, in order to get them worried for the final few hours of the flight. You might as well wait until, you're making your descent, and perhaps include it in your descent PA if you feel the need. If they're going to have questions, if it's obvious something's happened, they're going to have questions. And you feel because there is an element of danger and you feel they deserve to know about that, then I think it's great to make a PA. But if there, in your mind, if there's absolutely no danger and no change to the type of approach you're going to do it, everything is really perfectly normal, as it would be, but you have a slight degradation of the aircraft systems, then I don't see the point.
But clearly in this case, look at these pictures. Clearly, there's a big, giant hole in the engine, Nick.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, the surface appears bent with the inside of the engine exposed. I mean, that's horrible. That's frightening.
Yeah, I know. Terrifying. Must have
Terrifying.
been absolutely terrifying looking at those thrust reversers working away there.
The horror of it all. Speaking of the horror of it all,
oh my
look
God!
who has joined us?
Don't
That's
stab
me.
us, Steph.
The horror, the horror.
Hello, Dr. Steph. She's all the things, like everything that you could possibly think of as being just outrageously cool. That's what Dr. Steph does.
Too many things today. I don't
Too
know.
many things. And I'm not going to try to find the script.
No,
that
don't
says
worry
all the
about it.
fun
It
things
doesn't
you
matter.
do.
Just know that I've been working a lot, and I'm glad to finally have made my
You
way home to
you
join you
look
all.
decidedly relaxed, considering.
She was drinking
do
like
I?
a 6-pack of beer all the way home in the traffic.
I'm gonna make a pit stop on the way.
In a brown paper bag, I hope.
Yeah, because you'd never be.
Discretion.
Yeah, that doesn't get anybody's attention.
No, there was no. I consumed a Starbucks on the way home. So
Okay.
All right,
Perhaps
okay.
I
Do they sell
caffeinated
beer
first.
now?
No, not to my knowledge, anyway.
Okay.
Well, we're
no,
glad
I
you
had
made it.
to caffeinate before I got here, because otherwise I'd been like, yeah.
Fair enough.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
let's do that. So
Busy
what have
day.
you been up to, Steph?
What have I been up to? I'm guessing you guys already talked about what you've been up
We
to.
did, yes.
I've been working a lot. I do apologize for missing the show last week. I was fully planning on being here for that. I won't go into too much detail because I don't know who knows what yet and things like that. But just to let everyone know, there's an extended member of my family who had a very serious medical event, and I felt like I should provide some assistance and help navigate that situation for them a little bit to the best of my abilities. So still kind of a lot up in the air there. So if you're the thoughts and prayers type of person out there, that goes a long way and is appreciated for that side of my family, and they've been through a lot. So I do apologize for missing the show last week, but it was good to be able to do some of that. And
gotta have your priorities.
yeah, back home and just plugging away at work. So, and really my I didn't think I would have much of a problem getting here, at least closer to on time today. But, sometimes when you're in the medical field, things crop up that are unexpected and require attention and some time commitment. And that's kind of where things ended up this afternoon. So everything there has been taken care of and is good to go. And some things that needed to be just managed before the weekend came along, took care of all of that. So didn't want people waiting on news over the weekend and being surprised by things that need attention. So, Yep.
Well, I hope you have some plans for some relaxing activities this weekend, or are you jam-packed?
I don't know. So I'm supposed to be flying this weekend, but actually I need to. That's the other thing. I'm being bombarded with questions about the weather for tomorrow at the moment, so I might need to give them an update here momentarily so we can make plans, because tomorrow doesn't look like a good day for doing sky sports and flying and that type of thing. It's going to be rainy, I think, and low overcast most of the day, kind of on the chillier side compared with where we've been. Man, I don't know about you, Jeff, but it's been it's been really warm here.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the country has just been like in this nasty cold, snow.
Yeah, breaking records.
Yeah.
in
It was
this
like
area of the
80. It
country.
was like 82 degrees here yesterday Fahrenheit,
Mhm.
that's like May
Mhm.
temperatures.
Yeah, not February.
Today was pretty warm too. It was 70 something still, but the clouds have rolled in, and you can feel the temperature starting to drop a bit. So, I'll have to send some messages about that in just a moment. But I don't think we'll be flying or in the air tomorrow. Sunday looks a little bit better, especially in the afternoon. So hopefully we'll get a chance to, commit aviation and do some
commit
skydiving
aviation. And jump out of a perfectly
jump out
good
of
airplane.
perfectly good airplanes. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I haven't flown I feel like I started off the year with kind of a bang. We did some unexpected flying early in the season, and then it kind of trailed off again. So the weather's been more winter like the past few times I've been on the schedule to fly. So.
Well, I did some unexpected flying the other day. I had a really nice landing.
Good.
Thank you. Rim shot. Wasn't not expected. Actually, I got my first, I think, ever lady was getting off the airplane. She said 10 out of 10. And I went, high five, or high 10.
High 10. High 10.
I don't know if she was single or not, Liz. I didn't ask her. She was walking.
My passengers
Are
never
you
comment
single?
on my landings.
Huh?
My passengers never comment on my
Why?
landings.
No,
Oh, that's
why
right.
is
You don't
that?
have any.
Ridiculous. They ought to pre-record something for you.
I watch their landings sometimes and make commentary, which they never
Oh, do you?
hear. Uh-huh.
And I'm sure it's always very
always-
positive
always.
comments from you.
Always. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good stuff. So yeah, that's all that's going on here. Hopefully next time we get together, I can talk about some flying related things.
All right.
Excellent.
So you said 4, Liz, but I think you mean 5, the medical process? Okay. Okay. So this is from Andy Harris, Alpha Hotel, if you prefer, who I met up with just last night in Dayton, Ohio. And he sent this in a while back, and we're finally getting to it, Andy. He says, hey, all, if you could, how would you reform the FAA medical rules and procedures? Cheers. And basically, he kind of clarified that last night, and he said, really what I meant was like, if there was one thing that you could change, what would it be?
One thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, Andy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all want to give your 2 cents on this, but I think the biggest thing that I see and that is frustrating to me is that there's not a great process for, at least on the FAA side of things, when pilots are going for their medicals, for really clarifying maybe pre-existing or prior conditions. I think some of the most frustrating things for people, especially the up-and-coming generation, a lot of, this is just a general example, I'm not thinking of any one person in particular, but I've seen this commentary brought up again and again in various circles and groups that I'm in, where people have been placed on a medication, perhaps as a minor, so it wasn't necessarily 100% their decision to be on this medication, and this medication is basically like ADHD medications, primarily, is what I'm thinking about. And it's a process. If you've ever been on a medication like that, to go through and figure out how to, there's just a lot of testing and a lot of hoops and a lot of bureaucracy to make sure that, whatever the diagnosis it was that was being used for isn't something that's going to interfere with flying or piloting abilities. And I think in a lot of cases, a lot of folks coming up now who are just starting maybe to get into flying or pursue a professional flying career, it was kind of a thing just to put kids on ADHD medications if they were kind of rambunctious and, being a kid in a classroom, to help focus them. And maybe it doesn't have much of anything to do with needing those sort of stimulants or attention focusing medications to live their life as an adult. So I would change stuff like that, where things have happened in the past, have clearly been resolved, but end up being these big hurdles for people to have to go through. I don't know how we accomplish that, but
And maybe do some kind of a campaign to the people that are actually prescribing these things to begin with, and say, hey.
Well, and a lot of them don't know. They don't take
Yeah.
they don't take future ramifications into
Right.
account. They don't realize that that's something that might stop someone from pursuing a career that they don't even know is a possibility yet.
Mm-hmm. True. Very good.
That's my one
do
thing.
I have anything? Not really. I guess maybe just if there was a way to better inform a lot of the people out there that have AME, what would you call it, privileges or AME certification?
Who are AMEs?
Yeah, who are AMEs, that because we've come across this several times on our show where people have, let's say color blindness, for instance, is a good example, where some will say, they'll just use that book with the, the whatever, what is it called?
Oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah, but anyway,
Ishawara,
there's some kind of a Japanese sounding name.
Mm-hmm.
Tests, and then if they don't pass that, I go, hey, I'm sorry, you're colorblind. You can't be a pilot. And then, but wait a minute, hang on, there are different avenues you can, investigate, and quite possibly, and I think it has a pretty good track record of success for people to do these alternative ways to prove your color blindness or lack thereof.
Let's say discrimination, being able to discrimination correctly.
Yeah.
You don't have to identify it the same as everyone else does, but you need to be able to use the information that might be being presented to you. Right?
So how many people out there were turned away from this possibility of being pilots for their career because the AME that they went to either didn't know or
maybe just didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Or didn't feel like doing anything else.
And I think this is where I see this a lot unrelated to aviation side of medical things. Part of my job, I think, very much has become trying to empower people to take control of their own medical conditions, whether it's something that I'm seeing them for or not. I think a lot of people will just take whatever's given to them at face value and not go an extra step to find out if maybe there's a better treatment for it, maybe there's a better provider for it, maybe there's something that they can do on their own. And then also realizing that not every medical professional that you're seeing, whether that's a physician, nurse practitioner, PA at least here in the United States these days, is an expert on all the things, You have to seek out the person who's got that information. We have so much knowledge now about medicine that it's impossible for any one person to know all of those things. And that's why it's become very divided into specialties and subspecialties. But almost certainly there's someone out there who can help you with whatever the issue is. But you also have to take that personal responsibility on yourself a little bit in order to do the work to find that person who's going to be the right match.
Oh, good point. Nick, you have any ideas?
Well, I didn't realize it was going to be quite so serious. I was going to assume they'd hope that they would take a more relaxed attitude to recreational drugs. But actually, is it?
Hey, we want that other side of the,
Are we finally revealing the real reason why you retired early?
Retired, yes, 6 months early as well. Yeah, I couldn't hang on anymore.
He couldn't stay away from those recreational drugs.
Well, I mean, as far as I was concerned, I was on some pretty low-level monitoring drugs that would sort of help out with a little bit of blood pressure. And of course, once I developed diabetes, just a few, type 2 diabetic style drugs that if ever I wanted 2 weeks off flying, I would just get the dosage of any of those drugs changed because that immediately meant I was grounded for 2 weeks while I had to prove that, any effects that a slight change on any of these multitude of drugs was going to manifest itself as a big problem. And then, of course, I would have to be reviewed having gone through a 2-week rest. So actually, I'd end up with about a month off flying if I wanted. That sort of thing just annoyed me a little bit because I would play the game because I was, I'm a good boy. I would advise, and I would get a letter back saying your medicals be suspended. I would advise the company, and then I would duly wait and take pills for a couple of weeks. And of course, I know my body well enough, so I knew nothing was going to happen. After a couple of weeks, I'd have to go back and see the doc, and he would say, you're fine, no problems. And I'd write to the CAA, and they'd go, yeah, okay, you'll have to come up and see one of our specialists. And once they've seen you, and I'd be going, what? So they seem to treat things like a major heart defect with in the same order of magnitude as something relatively minor,
like a sprained ankle or something. Or,
I didn't really understand
like a paper
that.
cut.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you were treated with kid gloves, and I didn't always feel that was necessary.
So
on the other hand,
go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. On the other hand, because you can't afford, with only 2 crew on board, you can't really afford to have medical problems with the pilots on board. So I do understand the basic nature of the need to look after your body, and particularly as you get older, where you're more likely to have a major event. So I kind of understood that. I'm not really keen with the idea of advancing the age at which you can hold a medical, because I think 65 is probably enough. By the time you creep it up towards 70, you're really getting quite close to the incidence of medical events, and it's going to become a lot worse. And I don't really think we're quite there yet. But the only thing, my caveat with all of the problems, and I've had quite a few medical problems during my career, was that you have to be open and honest with your doctor. Once you've found one you trust, and there's no reason why all of them shouldn't be trustworthy, but once you find one you're comfortable with and you can talk through your problems and they understand where you're coming from and vice versa, I think it's very important to be very honest, because your AME and your medical authority are not trying to stop you flying. This is the one thing I found very hard to get across to people who said, well, why the hell did you tell them that? They might have taken your license away. And I go, no, everyone I ever spoke to in this field, all they wanted to do was to get me back in the cockpit. None of them wanted to take my license away. They obviously have to suspend it and go through a formal review and make sure that it was all going to work out. But they were always looking for ways to get me back to flying. It might have taken a while, but that was the attitude I always took to it. It never did me any harm at all.
So I want to piggyback on a lot of that, actually, Captain
please.
Nick, if I have a moment to, because I think perhaps there are differences throughout the world and how that really works or how that's perceived. I can only speak to what happens here, but there's very much just kind of a sense or culture of, don't report things potentially because you'll end up not flying, or you'll have to go through all these hoops, or you'll spend a lot of your own money trying to prove that you don't have this problem that they think that you have. And actually that's, I don't have a specifics for how to reform that, especially amongst the FAA, but having been on the receiving end of some of that difficulty, I can say that that sense is not always the same here. You don't always get the sense that they're trying to get you back flying. You can do everything they ask for and still get just very frustrating responses. So I do think that we need to figure out how to change that culture around, because absolutely we want people being treated for their medical conditions. And a lot of these things are treatable, and not any reason why someone should not be flying or trusted to fly. But there's a lot of, I think it's that balance between trying to sort out the things that truly are problems and the things that are problems but corrected, and the things that are not problems that we're not good at least on this side of the pond. And it's frustrating. And it prevents people from seeking appropriate medical care.
I agree 100%, there, Steph. Bear in mind that my career is a little bit divorced from the reality now. Even as I was finishing my career, the large medical establishment that was present down at Gatwick, where I used to go, that called the Beehive, there, where the CAA had their medical division. They were extremely well manned. They had their own doctors and specialists. You would go in there, you would pay, if you needed an extra test and it wasn't covered by the National Health Service, you would pay a very, reasonable rate to have an extra heart check or whatever it was they asked to have done.
Yeah.
And it was all done in-house, which even as I was finishing my career up, that all stopped completely, and the staff were all shipped out. The whole system changed, and I don't think it's changed for the better. I would much rather see the Civil Aviation Authority and their equivalents around the world having their own staff looking after the pilots professionally, and there as an integral medical unit doing their best to solve all their problems and get them back into the air.
Yeah.
That ought to be their primary aim.
That's the fix. That's also the logistical challenge in our modern medical society.
Yeah.
I put Maid Marin's comment up there because I think this kind of maybe gets to the heart of the issue. The docs are great, but the block checkers are the ones that scare me. So you got someone there with a checklist of things, and either you tick the boxes or you don't. And sometimes if you don't, then it leads to all sorts of issues.
Yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
All right.
Good
Great
question,
discussion.
That is a great question. And
Thank you, Andy.
We would change lots of things. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah. But you only let us change one or maybe two.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm sure this will be the last time we'll talk about it. Let's skip down to 12. This is feedback from Bruce.
Bruce.
Hello again, APG crew and community. I'm getting ready to put something up here. Okay. When the attached item randomly appeared in my Instagram feed, I immediately thought of one person. And guess who that is? Dr. Steph. Now that they are cutting up Delta CRJ 200s, I think an appropriate use of the APG Coffee Fund might be to purchase a plane tag for Dr. Steph so she never forgets the good times crouching down to look out the window. I've made a contribution to the Coffee Fund in case you all think that this is a good idea. Of course, there might be a better use for the Coffee Fund, which is perfectly fine with me. He says, take care all, Bruce. Well, Bruce, you know what? There's much better use for the Coffee Fund than buying one of these pieces of,
like actual coffee.
What?
Yeah. Hey, so I actually have spent some time recently on the Mighty Deuce, not with that particular airline since they're cutting
Mighty
theirs
Deuce.
all up.
I think about something
but
else.
I found my favorite seat on the airplane.
Yeah.
There are 13 rows of passenger seats, and I think my new favorite is actually 13B. It is directly next to the lav.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say across from, but literally you can reach out and touch it because that's the scale of this.
Speaking of deuces. Okay.
Speaking of deuces. But I found that because it's so small, people in general aren't like enthusiastic to either use the lav or spend much time in there. So it's okay. And because it's all the way in the back, you're in the aisle, not the window, so you don't even have to worry about looking out the window, which would normally be my preference, but forget it. You're not going to see anything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I can stick my feet straight down the aisle most of the time. No one's coming back there. It's lots of space.
Yeah.
It's and then I have unimpeded access to the lavatory should I need it.
Hey, that's
sounds good. And presumably, if there's no one sitting beside you, you've got a good diagonal view out of the window.
Yeah, that too. So
excellent.
That is my new seat of choice on the CRJ 200.
So what Bruce saw on his Instagram feed was one of these, what do you call it, like a keychain, key fob things from Moto Art. It's a actual skin.
That's a bit creepy. They write genuine skin on it, and I'm going, whose skin have they used?
The CRJ 200. Of course.
Well, possibly.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
Perhaps they've been out to Papua New Guinea and got some skin from the...
Well, maybe that's what he's going to be contributing
Kiwi pilot skin.
Okay, anything else, Liz, specific to Steph? Okay, yeah, we've been kind of holding on to those. All right, and do you need to leave us now to do something? No? Steph?
Me?
Yeah.
I need to leave?
I may have misunderstood.
Then you just got here.
I know. No.
When we start talking about other things again, I do need to send.
About,
I do need to send some messages here
about the weather.
Yes,
I think that's what she's referring to.
I actually do need to look at the weather, but I was going to wait until you started talking about
something
else,
boring.
I was going
some
to
boring
ignore
stuff that you don't care about that you can not pay attention to. Okay. All right. Well, with that, where were we in the normal thing here? Is number 6? Okay. Sam Bolog sent this in from Los Angeles. He said, "Hello all, this is Sam Bolog, formerly known as Sam from Los Angeles. Thought I would share a few experiences during my training on the 172 out of Van Nuys. While performing a pre-flight check, my instructor was speaking with another pilot a couple of planes over. I had just removed the second wing tie-down when a pilot untied the plane next to me, jumped in, and proceeded to start and taxi away without pulling the plane out of the spot first. My instructor ran over yelling for me to grab a tie-down while he grabbed the other. He was giving the idiot a mouthful while he taxied away, giving us a smirk. Lesson learned."
All right, what's the problem here?
Well, I think that it's courtesy, and maybe Steph can correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of pull your airplane out of the way of possible prop wash and other
it
issues.
depends on how the aircraft are parked.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're just adjacent to each other, I don't see a problem. But if it's where you're, if there's someone immediately behind you who's pre-flighting a plane, then yeah, you probably want to, pull it out into the I don't know, the onto the ramp, or turn it the other direction, or you just want to be courteous to people. So
Okay.
So Sam, they're saying there's nothing wrong here. This is what Steph does every day.
Yes.
It just depends on. I mean,
I know,
how the planes are situated relative to one another. Yeah, you don't want to.
I know Steph personally. She's a very courteous person. She would never do anything discourteous.
So I'm guessing they're on a fairly tight area where there's lots of airplanes crammed together, and you might blow someone over. Is that what we're saying here?
Or actually, grab the tie downs. Those are attached to the wings to keep the airplane from moving or flying.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Well, if I was in a jet, yeah, I'd mind my P's and Q's, but
these things are so low. Well, you've done GA. They want to fly with a little bit of wind.
It's just that we lined the airplanes all up, and we started them up and taxied them out of the line. So, yeah.
Okay, well, Captain Nick, Sam, doesn't feel your pain at all. Okay, on moving to the next paragraph. On another occasion, while preparing to take an early evening instruction, the log showed that the last person to fly the plane was a mechanic after performing routine maintenance. During the check, I noticed that the intake filter was missing. We found it on a workbench in a hangar, clean and ready to be reinstalled. After installing the filter, we did a second complete inspection together. Another lesson well learned. Yeah. A couple of weeks later, while cruising at about 4,500 feet, there was a random knocking on the fuselage.
Oh, had someone fallen out?
Maybe, sounding as though it was above my head. The CFI took the controls, did a few maneuvers, and decided to head back to the airport. We landed with no incident. I'm not going to tell you what the issue was yet, in order to give you all a chance to guess. I'm assuming that Dr. Steph may have the best chance of diagnosing this issue.
A parachutist had landed on your aircraft.
Since she has spent many hours in the aircraft and may have possibly encountered the same issue at some point. He said a random knocking on the fuselage, sounding like it was above his head. And the only thing I could think of is maybe like the gas cap or something, maybe like not secured, and like it has like a little chain, right? That
it has. So most of them do. Some of them don't.
Oh, some of them don't.
If you left the gas cap, which is, if it's a high wing aircraft, which I think they were in a 172, was that right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So most of them are secured to the fuselage or to the wing with a chain, and if you didn't actually tie the cap back down or screw it back on, it would be flapping around and banging on the top there and make that noise. I think you're
Wouldn't you
spot
also
on that.
notice with a sharp decrease in fuel as all the petrol evaporated?
It depends on how long you were flying for and how
Well,
much gas you
I
started
don't know
with.
how quickly and it would actually disappear.
You have a whole other tank full of gas, presumably, so
All right.
not that fast, but also not ideal.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what maneuvers the CFI did. You turn it upside down to see if all the fuel
See if all
went
the
out.
gas-
And then look to see if there's any fuel pouring out.
Spin it.
Probably not what he did.
Probably straight and level
Yeah,
back,
not a
direct back to the
172.
field. Yeah, that's a good idea. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. Well, Sam, you'll
I
have
have
to follow up.
never encountered that issue, to be
Oh.
fair. So, but I know it's happened. I mean, certainly it's happened out there, and I'm pretty paranoid about checking and double checking and visually checking.
Well, Tim Van Ram has a very similar problem as you had, Sam. One of my last hotel rooms had random knocking from the room next door.
Oh dear!
And then
Uh-oh.
obviously
Pretty
Tim did some.
rhythmic, probably, yes.
Did Tim do some maneuvers to determine the problem? I
Could
don't
be. Yeah, I've heard of that problem in the knocking shops as well.
Okay. All right. Oh, here we go. Number 7. This is from Javier. And this is something that has been in the news a lot lately. Hello, would like to hear if any or all of the crews in the program had any encounters with UAPs over the years flying. Unidentified aerial phenomena or phenomenon.
Phenomena.
Javier Ramos. Sort of like, have we seen little green men flying their flying saucers? Is that what we're talking about here?
I've seen a fair amount of like Mylar balloons,
Yeah, I've seen Mylar balloons.
like a lot.
I've seen the things that are closest to what I would say is it looks really eerily like something from, another place, another planet, or
Yeah.
extraterrestrial. Would be in almost every single. Well, I think every time, it was really the lights from stars, from different star systems or solar systems that are on the horizon, and at night, interacting with our Earth's atmosphere can end up turning colors, and it's really pretty. But sometimes it's like, wow, what the heck is that? It's just like, it really kind of looks like nothing you've seen, and you start having these fanciful ideas about what you're looking at, what you're witnessing. I've also heard many cases where lights that are outside or seemingly outside are actually reflections in the glass or the plexiglass or whatever the material is on your airplane windows and windscreen, and that your mind kind of just creates this idea that you're seeing something. But it is, in a way, an unidentified flying object out there, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I think Nick and I are probably in the same camp, and likely Steph as well. I've never really seen anything that I thought, oh yeah, there's definitely something going on that's not of this world.
I have to agree, Jeff. I'm afraid I've got a rather pragmatic streak about me, and I don't have any fanciful ideas of there being aliens floating around who haven't made themselves obvious yet, and you can only ever seem to find them in terribly bad, grainy photographs that everyone's convinced the final proof that they exist. But considering the quality of imagery we have available to us now,
Oh, come on, we have 4K, 6P, 12P, whatever.
Exactly.
Like we have amazing resolution now. Come on,
Yeah,
get a new camera.
All of a sudden, no one seems to be able to take a decent picture of one in 4K or whatever. Yeah, exactly right. So I do worry about that sort of thing. A lot of them come from people who have a previous history, if I could say, perhaps in the belief of angels and demons and other strange things that they might believe have talked to them, or perhaps they've been abducted. These are the people that
And probed.
Yes, exactly. That often.
There's an angel over here that's just around the corner here that's staying with me. It's been here for a week.
Oh,
I'm
really?
almost finished.
Is that Hillel?
Oh, wait a minute. That's Hillel. I love him so much. I think of him as an angel. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I used to have a pot-smoking friend who firmly believed in UFOs and continually grilled me and never believed that I hadn't seen positive evidence. And he said, well, you wouldn't tell me even if you had, would you? And I'm going, well,
Damn right.
Yes, I probably would, but I haven't.
And I wouldn't tell you about the fact that the Earth is actually flat.
Yeah, yes,
I have all of this knowledge and I keep it to myself because I don't want you to know.
Yes, I know.
Captain Ridiculous Wits says, I'm not so sure Miami Rick is from this world. He's definitely an unidentified flying phenomenon.
Yeah,
I guess I could say
for
that.
sure. Yeah, anyone that irons his shirts with such rigor and then doesn't
Something
wear
wrong with
them. And as soon as he gets on the damned airplane, he's in some Hawaiian
I
shirt.
know, he's wearing pajamas or something.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell he's up
We
to.
must keep up appearances outside of the aircraft.
But he's a freight dog. Oh, who's he trying to impress?
Fellow freight doggers.
Must be. It must
I'm
be.
sure there's some
I'm impressed.
one-upsmanship going on amongst the freight dog crews.
Well, I do like his ironing technique. He's very good. He did great in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the last time I used an iron.
Ah, well, there you go.
Well, you know, I bought one.
Did you?
And an ironing board.
Have you
and
used it?
I have not used it. And I've had it for 2 years. But I have my shirts pressed by the dry cleaners, so I don't really need.
I've taken the approach that if it
Just in
can't,
case, though.
if the wrinkles cannot be smoothed out by, a spin in my dryer, it doesn't belong in my wardrobe.
Okay.
You know, I have a similar attitude towards things that go in the dishwasher. We should never buy anything that doesn't
can't go in the dishwasher.
Yeah, it can't go in the dishwasher. Sadly, my wife doesn't agree with me, and since I'm the one that does the washing up, I'm never going to change her mind.
No.
I don't know. Everything in my house has to be able to be machine washed and dishwasher safe.
Yes, great attitude.
If I ruin it because it doesn't survive that, it was not meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's skip to 9. From Sam Dawson. Is he still here with us? I think
he was earlier.
Oh, he had to make dinner. Okay. So he says, my non-pilot sister was recently flying Cincinnati to Orlando or some other lower Florida airport. She complained to me that the airport was delayed for weather, even though the weather was great in Florida and Cincinnati. I asked which airline, and she said Acme. Of course, I told her that it was her first mistake. Very funny, Sam. And he works for a competing carrier. I then decided to check the weather, and this is what I found. So now I'm going to show you what he found. Promise. I wonder what the problem is.
I see no problem. Send it.
So Cincinnati is like up here, like at the top portion of the screen, just out of view.
It looks like my neck of the woods there is getting
pounded.
Charlotte was receiving a little bit of stormy weather, and it's a very solid line of severe weather extending through the Charlotte area, North Carolina, a little bit of South Carolina Highlands, and into Georgia, going diagonally from the northeast to the southwest of the state of Georgia, and on way out into the Gulf of Mexico, and extending beyond the picture frame here up past, Virginia. And it's a depiction from FlightAware of all the flights and all the little airplanes out there. And there are some brave souls that are.
Yeah, I was going to say, some people put their fingers in their ears and had a go, haven't they?
They're getting into Charlotte. That's still happening.
That might be what's going on there. I can't tell the altitude of these airplanes that are in the area of the weather, but the vast majority, I think you would all agree, are staying mostly to the east of that line of weather, and the ones on the other side are kind of
milling around,
hovering around.
Yeah. What do we do here?
Not really a
you want to go
recognizable pattern. Yeah. So that's the reason. And Sam, of course, knows that. It's funny. Yeah, good one. I think we've diagnosed the problem.
View from the flight deck says, just make a tech stop in Cancun.
There you go.
Very good.
Let's see. Oh, I have some audio feedback from Justin. So what does he have to say?
Just in time.
My name is Justin. I actually just started to listen to your podcast earlier this week, and I'm only on episode 25, and I haven't skipped ahead. I did only skip to the current episode to hear your voice to make sure that nothing had changed as far as who is hosting. So I'm limited to 90 seconds, so I better make this quick. Keeping in mind that I'm only on episode 25 back in the beginning of 2012, I can tell that you work for the airlines. I knew that almost immediately when you mentioned that you were flying the MD-88 in 2011, as I believe only American Airlines and Delta were flying at that time. And then when you mentioned the merger and possibly getting 717s, as well as the Atlanta hub, which is the big kicker, I knew right away it was. I am a letter carrier actually out of Cincinnati. KCVG obviously used to be quite a secondary hub for your airline, but now it's not. Anyway, having to cut this short, I will keep listening in sequence, so I suppose it'll be some time before I am able to catch up to episode 555 or whatever it is that you're currently at. But enjoying the show and hope to continue listening for quite some time. God bless.
Welcome aboard, Justin, and we're on 558 playing your feedback. And I don't know what to tell you. If you're only on number 25, I'm not sure you're going to live long enough to listen to all the shows to the current show. And by the way, and you'll probably hear this over time as you listen to our show, that I don't fly for that beep airline. I fly for Acme Airlines.
Get it right.
Yes. But I think everybody knows who Acme is. And yeah, you're right, Liz, not much longer. But I love my airline, and I'd love to proudly say who it is. But it's just better for me to not
Tim's
reveal that.
revealed it. Look.
Only took me to episode 500 to figure out Acme was indeed Spirit Airline. Oh, beep, beep, beep. Oh, Tim, come on. It's not Spirit.
Cat's out the bag.
Well, Tim bumped his head a few too many times when he was a kid, I think.
Yeah. Paint chips, I think.
Or paint chips. Apparently, a lot of lead paint in his parents' house. Okay. Let's continue with 11? I'm pressing the button and nothing's happening. Here we go. Okay. I could say so. Texas and LaShock, the Southwest Holiday Meltdown. Greetings, Captain Jeff and APG crew. Well, by now, I'm sure you've discussed the Southwest catastrophe to death. And we're talking about the one that shut down Southwest for a few days over the holidays. But I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in anyway. As it turned out, I wound up right in the middle of it, flying into Denver, which was apparently where the whole thing started. The flight was uneventful, as was the landing, but then we taxied for a bit, and then just sat there. I went and checked our path on Flight Radar 24 later, and less than half of our elapsed was in the air. The rest was sitting on the ground at Denver. Eventually, they managed to get us in, and we unloaded into the airport. By this time, of course, all the flights had been canceled. We had nowhere to go, since it was past 10 at night. Everything in the airport was closed. That's the part that annoyed me more than anything. In the meantime, people trying to secure a way out had formed into several long lines leading to gate counters where a few diligent gate agents were patiently fielding requests and bookings. At some point, one of them went around telling everyone that everything had been booked through to Christmas Eve or even Christmas Day itself. And then, around then, I heard the people were getting through on the customer support line. So I called in and I figured I'd either get an answer or to the front of the line. The answer came first, and my lucky stars seemingly aligned, as the girl on the other end apparently had an opening for the next morning just appear right before her eyes. So I was able to get out in less than 12 hours and proceeded to LA via Las Vegas. Unfortunately, my bag was checked to go straight to Los Angeles from Denver, so it wound up on a different flight. And this is when I realized that Southwest does not have a baggage tracking feature on their app. Anyway, by Friday before Christmas, me and my bag were in California, and we all lived happily ever after until the flight back. This time, the delay wasn't on the airline. I was flying American Airlines on the way back, but on the flight back to Texas, the plane had to pull back into the gate to offload someone who had been vaping. So don't go vaping on a plane. They'll kick you off, and you'll inconvenience dozens to hundreds of other people. So don't do it. And there's your public service announcement for this feedback. So there's that. This is the Texas and LaShock signing off. Thank you for sharing that experience, Texas.
Yeah, no one ever seemed to share the wonderful, fantastic experiences they have. At least in my, in my
just
limited.
not sexy, like.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mention you're
actually.
a pilot.
And then everybody
all you get
lived
is
happily ever
complaints.
after.
We have actually, the flight attendants at Southwest are great. I mean, they're great for Acme too, but they give them a lot of margin to kind of make it entertaining for the passengers. Not always. Steph, you fly Southwest a lot more than any of us do here.
for sure.
I used to do a lot more than you do now, but they just have this kind of happy-go-lucky attitude, and we've actually had some decent positive stories. It's just sadly in this world of covering aviation news, most of the stuff that gets the attention is all the negative stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Afraid so.
All right. All right. Number 13. Greg. Big ass crane, Greg. Not big ass fan anymore. Crew, follow up to the Delta 767 diversion story. You'll remember that he sent us in some feedback thinking that maybe the control issue that they were having, or the turning issue with the airplane and the autopilot system, may have had something to do with the fact that there was a leak back in that wing box area where the cable runs are, and it may have frozen the aileron mechanism for the left side. And then when they descended, the temperature increased and the ice melted or whatever, and then it worked okay. Anyway, so he's sticking with his guns on this one. He said, so I did a little bit more digging on the 767 controls after Nick's speculation that all the cables were in a climate-controlled area of the aircraft. I found some sort of training manual for 767 flight controls attached for your reference, and it turns out that some of the flight controls are routed through the wheel well, which I believe is not climate-controlled. Aileron controls are covered on pages 18 through 31, and let me do this. I'm going to share the... stop sharing, present, and share screen and find the PDF. Here it is. Yay. Share and add to stream. Okay, so here is said 767 training manual, and this is the section with the aileron component locations. Now, got to go back to his feedback. On page 20, it indicates that the field centering and trim mechanism, one of the items replaced in the 767 diversion, is located in the left wheel well. The diagram on page 23 shows that the primary control cables lead right to that mechanism. I think my theory that the aileron controls froze up due to the lav leaks is valid, and that as the crew descended, the controls thawed enough to regain control of the aircraft to complete the flight. Again, Rick can tell me if I'm full of crap, but I think that's what happened. Well, Rick's not here to tell you that, Greg.
No,
but
just me.
Yeah, but I'm sure that Captain Nick will probably tell you that. I don't know. I think it's a pretty good theory, Greg, honestly.
So do I. You know, yeah. I live in a world where decent aircraft designers don't pass vital control cables through an area where, you know, you've got spinning tires that can burst or catch fire. I've recently covered in a plane tail, and you wouldn't. I would have assumed that you didn't stick vital flight control systems in that place. So but by looking at this manual, it appears I might be wrong. Which, I go, well, you get what you pay for, chaps. If you're going to stick it in there, then it could get wet and freeze. It could be smashed up by a burst tire. It could, lots of things can happen to it. Why don't you just stick it somewhere safe? Anyway, so if that's the case, and it is a little bit general. It just says left wheel well, right wheel well. They both got some components. It doesn't actually say anything more than that. And whether the leaking fluid from the cabin could have got into those areas, I don't know. But anyway, I think you certainly have done a lot of hard work in this, and I appreciate that. And I certainly think you've got a great theory. We might need to let Rick speak on this in the future. Do you think we can still get him to...
I don't know.
He's moving to the 747, so he's going to dump his 76 stuff pretty quick.
Get Miami Rick on the phone.
Got him on
You're
speed
going
dial,
to have to catch him while he can still remember it. Anyway, it's a fascinating idea, Greg. Do we not have any actual investigation yet to tell us what actually happened?
I don't think so, not yet. And this is one of those things that I'm not sure we'll ever really find out. Is the NTSB investigating this one?
I don't know. Probably not.
Well,
or if they are,
yeah,
it's
the
not going to be-
Canadians. The Canadian TSB may have some. Well,
that'll
Liz
only
knows some
take
people
10
up there.
years
So.
then.
Oh, yeah, I looked at you to see what Nick said.
I did not.
It'll probably take 10 years before they get around to it.
Yeah. So if what you're saying is true, then I just go, what on earth did they do that for? Why did they?
Yeah, it doesn't
route
seem like
there?
a very good design. Yeah, that's true too. Liz is saying it's kind of surprising that it hasn't happened before. If that's the case, yeah. I don't know. Well, hopefully we'll find out. Let's try to squeeze out one more.
Fly by wire.
Okay, we can do more than one. Okay, well, I'm going to do mine first.
One more? Which one?
I don't know. I'm going to do number 14, and then maybe we'll do, which one is it? What number you want to do, Nick?
I was saying
No,
fly
Nick
by wire.
Oh,
just wants
I
to
was
change
saying.
Boeing.
Well,
Yes.
Boeing has fly-by-wire stuff
They
too.
do.
Well, they do now, but the 76 doesn't. Well, actually, it does, but it's a bit more basic.
Okay. Becky has a question for us. She said, sitting at the gate, and this is, I don't know how long ago she sent this in. A while, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Sitting at the gate at Toronto. Yeah, listen, that's her first
There's the problem.
I'm curious about something I'm observing. Our CRJ 900 arrived. Passengers deplaned. About 35 minutes later, our crew arrived and headed to the plane and then came back saying that the previous crew was still on board so that they could not board and do safety checks until the prior crew leaves. That seems obvious, but I'm curious why the whole crew would still be on board 35 minutes after the passengers left. About 5 minutes later, the previous crew exited and ours boarded. Any ideas? Seems like a long debrief. Becky Rausch. I doubt that they're
I've got some
debriefing.
It could be a long debrief, but do you
Who does
regularly
debriefs? We don't do debriefs.
Oh, we always did. If there had an occurrence.
Okay, yeah, if something happened. Maybe.
We get managers come on, and then the whole crew would debrief, or the captain would do it, or we just open a bottle of champagne and just sit there and have a drink before.
So I
we
was
got
thinking
off.
that might be more of what was occurring.
Which we used to do regularly in the old days. No, if it might be that not all the passengers have got off. If they've got a disabled passengers and they're waiting for a one of those carriers that plugs onto the side of the aircraft you can't see and takes a wheelchair passenger or a disabled passenger off through into, I forget what they call, they're a special lift that bring someone's phone got stuck in the seat. Yeah,
That's from me, man, Micah.
Yeah, that happens too, Micah. Absolutely. But yeah, it's often they're waiting to try and get a disabled passenger off, and the low loader that helps them off into the ambulance doesn't pitch up on time.
What do you think, Steph?
I have no idea. I thought they were just having a good time in the aircraft and didn't want to leave.
That could be.
Or that someone had forgotten their passport and was concerned about how to enter the country.
Well, I remember.
So this is something that would happen to me, that I would not have my proper ID with me somehow and fail.
Back in my 727 days, flew from Atlanta to Miami, and then the next leg was going to be Miami, probably back to Atlanta or maybe up to New York. And we got there to gate the passengers to plane, and they had some leftover. This is back in the days when we actually had not crew meals, but passenger like hot meals, and they had some trays that hadn't been consumed. And so we were all just sitting there, just enjoying our meals,
having lunch,
chowing down. And then this crew comes on and like, what are y'all doing? Why are you still on the airplane? We're looking at them like, what? And what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, this airplane's going like back to Atlanta. Where are you guys going? We're going to New York. Okay. It turns out that we had a ship change, an airplane change in Miami. I mean, in Atlanta, of course, it happens almost every time you go through Atlanta. But when you go to an outstation and continue on another flight, it's almost always in the same airplane.
So you think these guys maybe just didn't realize they were supposed to be on a different aircraft?
I don't know. I don't know how that works in their world. But I was not eating their meal, Liz. I was eating a meal that was not eaten by a passenger on that inbound flight, because the catering hadn't arrived yet for their flight, I guess. But anyway, talking about like being really relaxed and laid back and feet kicked, put up on the furniture, and just having a good old time, and then all of a sudden just scrambling because they were already like, we need to be boarding right now for our flight. We're going, sorry. View from the flight deck says, if it was a trans-border flight, U.S.-Canada, the inbound and outbound crews aren't allowed to mingle. Really? Interesting. A customs thing, huh?
Yep,
okay.
Probably.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, they probably have to go straight through.
They can pass contraband between them, you see.
Oh, yeah, those Canadians. Yeah, I get it.
You never trust them.
Yeah. And Cuban cigars and stuff. Maybe that's what was happening.
Yeah.
Lisa, do you need any? No, I don't smoke cigars, but if I did, I would certainly. Well, I could sell them. Yeah.
Yeah, and, it's not for your own personal consumption. For
yeah. Which one next, Liz? Okay. Number 17. This is from Skylar. Charles, or maybe Charles Schuyler, not sure. Schuyler's his first name? Okay. Hello, APG crew. My name is Schuyler. Oh, yeah, there he goes. He says it right there in the first sentence. My name is Schuyler. I'm an aspiring pilot based in the Florida Panhandle. I've been listening off and on for a few years, but recently I found my dreams of becoming an airline pilot inch closer to a reality. This year I was laid off, and my wife and I decided to bite the bullet. I got a job as a gate agent at a local airport working for Southwest, and I intend to begin flight training by summer at the latest. I know I have a long journey ahead of me, but I'm truly blessed to be working in the world of aviation. I just wanted to say that you and the team have helped me along the way and have kept the flame burning for my aviation dreams. I also wanted to know if you ever fly into Destin Fort Walton, which is VPS. Yes, I do. As I know, Acme has daily service with a Boeing 717. Yeah, I get in there every once in a while, Skylar. Thanks again, and best regards to everyone. Yeah, Liz is mentioning that we do, on our website, airlinepilotguy.com, we have a calendar, a community calendar. I usually am able to put my schedule, and I kind of, anonymize it a little bit. But, I have my flights where I'm going to and where I'm laying over and that kind of thing. Not exact information, but general information. So you might want to check that out if I ever have Fort Walton Beach layover. That'd be fun to have a meetup. Yeah, and I guess we don't need to talk about okay. All right. So Skylar, it's great. We're excited for you. We hope that you have a great experience with your flight training this summer. And please keep listening and also keep communicating with us and sending us updates on your flight progress.
I don't know that it's so much us that keeps people motivated sometimes, but we've certainly had a lot of listeners over the year who have kept us updated on their flight training and progress, and have gone from very beginnings to much more advanced positions. So
several who are now great friends of us and of ours, and yeah, it's truly inspiring that we inspired them and now they inspire us. So you're right, Steph. That's all right. Number 18. We're going to finish off with this, and okay. I need to load a video now. This is just so complicated. Video file. Okay, open. And I'll just play the video. I think it kind of stands on its own.
This flight is so short, the whole flight will fit into one TikTok video. Don't believe me? Then watch to the end of the video. This is the world's shortest passenger flight. It runs twice a day between the islands of Papa Westray and Westray in the Scottish Orkney Islands. The flight is operated by the Scottish airline Loganair on this Britain-Norman islander, which seats up to 8 passengers. You barely get airborne from the runway before the aircraft's turning onto its final approach into the destination.
So the distance between these airports then here at Papa Westray and Westray is just 1.7 miles between the two. And really most people seem to be connecting onto this flight to fly down to Kirkwall after this flight to continue onwards. There's not really many passengers that fly between the two, and I'm not surprised because at £17 for a one-way ticket for a 1.7 mile flight, it ranks as one of the most expensive flights that you can take on a per mile basis. Actually more expensive than Emirates First Class, and we're already on our approach into Westray. Look at that, look.
At 1.7 miles, the distance between these two airports is less than the length of the runway at Edinburgh Airport. The flight time is scheduled at 2 minutes long, but usually it's much faster depending on the runway being used, and the record for this flight is just 53 seconds.
And 14 seconds.
Former IT specialist Noel Phillips travels the world reviewing the longest, worst, and most dangerous flights. And apparently he has a very nice channel on TikTok.
Well, I don't think he's been on any of my flights, so I wonder if he's actually got that right.
Do you hold some sort of records for longest, worst, and most dangerous?
Yeah, he said worst. I think he has been on one of your flights.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen the review.
What was I going to say? Yeah. So Brent, who sent this in, said, "This must be one of not First Officer Brent. This is another Brent." He said, "This must be one of Captain Jeff's flights."
Oh, well, when it comes to short flights, yes, I think you're right.
None of mine are quite this short.
And that's, you probably just do that. That's it. That's your leg for the day. 1 minute.
But I would like
and then he's done. He's like off to the hotel and like.
Yeah. So the problem is these pilots probably have to do this like 10 to 20 times every day.
Lots of landings.
View from the flight deck. I have operated a scheduled service that is 5 miles across the Albany River in the far north of Ontario. Wow, 5 miles. I think the shortest that I've ever done is like between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, which is pretty close.
My flights originate and terminate at the same airport.
Well, there you go. That's super short.
Absolutely.
It still takes about 14 minutes.
I must admit, I've been from London to Gatwick and vice versa many times, and it takes forever.
I've been on some fairly short Britain Norman Islander flights, scheduled passenger flights. think in the order or in the range of like 10 to 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
They're good island hoppers. I mean, you're not going that far between islands. It's just a lot faster on the airplane and not that much more expensive than to take a boat. So might as well fly.
I was comparing the cost of the flight with like Emirates first class. So what I'm thinking, I think the Emirates first class experience might be a little bit nicer.
Yeah, he was just saying it was more expensive per mile.
Per mile, yeah.
When you break it down.
Yeah, and everybody knows you don't pay per mile in this world of passenger flight.
No, and I don't know if I made it clear, it was from Gatwick to Heathrow. That might be my shortest commercial flight.
That's pretty close.
And, yeah, I know it's about 30 miles, but it takes forever. I mean, because like you're usually positioning the aircraft, so you have no priority. You very hard to get a slot. And air traffic send you round the houses 10 times. Yeah.
It's
very annoying. Well, I blame Adam myself.
Well, yeah, we all do. All right. That's it. We're going to wrap it up. Great show. Thanks for joining us, Steph. It's always a treat when you're here with us.
Sorry, I was
And you
tardy.
too, Nick.
You're very kind. Thank you. Ha, 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 ha.
And what do we normally do? We talk about pointing you over to our website, airlinepilotguy.com. Lots of good stuff there. And we are also on social media. And Steph is going to tell us all
This is the
about
real
that.
reason why you're happy that I made it to the show today.
Yes.
So I can discuss social media. Hey, we're on Facebook. That's facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. Also Twitter @APG Crew, and find our individual Twitter handles pinned to the top of that page. Nick does post the show artwork on our Instagram page, and we're APG Crew there as well. We've already established that Hillel has been spotted in Jeff's bathroom.
I mistook him for an angel, but it's not.
I'm presuming he's there so that he can fill us in on the Slack.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, you can hear the water. Hey, Hillel, could you tell us about Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
I know. Come on over here, though. Wait, put a towel on first, please. Thank you. Okay. There are kids in this audience. All right. Tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and plain tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks, Hillel.
Would you let me finish a poo for once?
I thought you were taking a shower.
No.
Okay. No is the answer. All right. And we want to thank our producer, Liz. There she is.
Here I am.
Thank you so much for all the hard work.
Well done,
99% of the work
My
is done by this
pleasure.
lady right there. Thank you very much. We love you. And with that, okay, the audience. Okay, please.
Hey, they are super enthusiastic
getting
about it.
embarrassing, I'd say. Okay, and I guess anything else left to say other than like bidding everybody farewell?
Adieu.
All right, until next time. Wishing you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Talons, Douglas.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
That was a good closing.
It
Because I
was.
didn't throw everybody off by saying something different.
I was anticipating what you were going to say, and you said it as I anticipated.
Oh, good.
Well, that's clever. How does that work?
Oh, like that.
Practice.
Okay, so show titles. Nick wants show
Recorder's
titles.
off.
Yes, thank you. I've got a couple of suggestions. I'm not really happy with any of them, but okay.
Okay.
Vaping on a plane.
Well, don't even.
Vaping on a plane is one.
Vaping on a plane,
That was
okay.
from Tim Van Ram.
Okay. Oh,
That-
if it's from Tim Van Ram, no. Okay. Eliminate that one.
That engine has holes in it.
I kind of like that one, actually.
The APG flight to nowhere, and you could go anywhere with that.
Every show is APG flight to nowhere.
It's like Seinfeld, but aviation.
Exactly. It's a show about nothing.
About aviation, nothing.
That's all I got.
An aviation show about nothing.
APG show to nowhere.
Flight to nowhere.
Flight
to nowhere. I do like what was about the holes in the engine?
That engine has a hole in it.
That engine has a hole in it. Oh man!
Nothing
I love
yet,
journalists.
Neil. We haven't got any planning for anything for Jeff's
He's not dead yet.
Not dead yet.
We'll kind of develop this idea as time goes on. I don't even know when I'm going to be retiring.
Maybe Jeff will take a tour and end up coming over there.
Maybe I'll
You
do
never
the
know.
Jeff's retirement tour.
round the world tour.
Round the world retirement tour.
Can I come
actually,
too?
Sounds fun. Yeah, come on. Yeah, I mean, I need my my assistant to make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be at because me, I'd be lost.
Ooh, that's a good one. 3-hour flight to nowhere.
3-hour flight to nowhere.
No, he's got 16-hour, but ours is
a
3-hour
flight to nowhere. 3-hour flight to Nowheresville.
The weekly 3-hour flight to nowhere.
3-hour tour.
Anyway, great chat room this week. Thank you, everybody. Lots of good content there.
Really great. I mean, so many great qualified. Well, I don't know. We don't really know you, so maybe you're full of
blowing smoke.
Yeah, blowing smoke up there, whatever. But,
Tim Van Ram says your retirement meetup should be in California because that's where you came from.
Well, I did. That's where I came out of my mom in Long Beach,
Thank
California.
you, Mrs. Nielsen.
Yes. Rest in peace.
Do you think you got something to work with there, Nick?
No.
No.
Nope.
Well, have you ever seen him? No, he has nothing to work with.
I'm never happy.
Okay, we need more suggestions then? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's fine. I've got something to work with.
Okay.
He'll pull it out of his hat.
I don't know. I have to try and
Did you
visualize
notice
the
the
picture.
The yes.
How do you visualize a flight that's not going anywhere? A flight to nowhere.
Squiggly flight.
Well, every flight goes somewhere. How do you make one that goes nowhere?
Well,
now we're getting philosophical.
Back where you came from.
That's why that engine has a hole in it. Sounds more.
Yeah, that sounds like something that might be easier to...
That engine has a hole in it.
That engine has a hole in it. More than one.
Has holes in it.
Holes in it.
Thanks, everybody.
That works.
We're going to sign off now.
So I knew it. Look at this from View from the Flight Deck. I make up 90% of my comments.
Yeah, well, he's a Canadian, I think. So
yeah, well, 72%
Right
of
on.
statistics are made up on the spot, so there's that fact.
Yes, I like it, Steph.
And pretty much everything that we say here is, I mean, we say 50%, but we're nowhere near 50% accuracy.
We rely on you
lot.
all
We
to
lie.
make sure we get to that 50%.
I'm shooting for 25%.
Yeah, just say it with
You
confidence.
know, if you set the bar low, there's nowhere to go but up usually.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. Do you know what you and I were doing a year ago today, Jeff? We were flying over to London.
Was it today?
Yeah,
Wow.
24th of February.
How about that?
Flying over to crash Nick and Jilly's house.
Yep.
Oh, Tim.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the bill to be paid.
Yeah, forget that.
You're never going to see that money.
But I did look up that hotel on the Isle of Wight. It looks very nice. It's
All right, okay.
very, very nice. I approve of that.
This is a good suggestion from Tim, Nick.
The A hole and the B hole.
Very
Probably should
good.
have said that out loud, but
We'd probably be the other way around, wouldn't it? The B hole and the A hole.
you got to be careful there.
Alphabetical order.
Got to be careful there.
The Albert Cottage Hotel on the Isle of Wight. I
That's
think
the
that's where you're
one.
going. In East Cowes. Very nice.
Only the best for Captain Nick.
Okay, everybody, we're going to end the broadcast. Bye.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.
All the best, everybody.